I'm getting a lot of thunder outside, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I haven't really secured this room to, keep the noise out. You might hear anything today.
Yeah, here it just switched from rain to hail, so there's
Did you really?
some sounds. Yep.
That's
just
weird
now.
because I was getting summer thunder a little while ago, and I'm like, well, this is going to make for interesting, crazy radio. Shouldn't I get those like eggshell things, put them up all around the room?
I know.
I don't know. Yeah.
You
Although
normally don't hear the elements in radio.
Well, you need the same thing we have at Sirius XM. Is the door so heavy that you can't even pull it open?
Yes. That we need two producers at any time.
We can't have women guests there because the door is so heavy that they just stand outside until their segment is over. It is the Bennington show. Another record in New York City. We're doing it. We're setting a record a day. Still going strong. You know, our friend Jill Lawson, if you go over and look at her stories on Instagram, she went out shopping at noon yesterday on Fifth Avenue, and it's absolutely empty. It's absolutely empty. Well, Vito, you're seeing Midtown every day.
Yeah.
It must seem insane to you.
It's nuts. There's nobody in the streets. Like if I look out the window in the office I'm in, I could see 7th Avenue and like part of Times Square, and there's just nobody in the streets. There's rarely any cars even going by. It's bizarre.
There's no cabs out there, right?
No cabs. If you order an Uber, it's going to take about 5 minutes because like they're not just all over right now. And getting into an Uber right now is so weird because they've all... So when this started a few weeks ago, they started putting up like a plastic, like a kind of divider, one that's like sheet basically. Now they've put up like hard plastic dividers in their cabs.
Right, but it doesn't keep you from sitting in a chrono pool either.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They're fine.
Don't take car. I try to walk or run to work as many days as I can because like you don't know who's sitting in the back of that cab.
Yeah, you should just take a pedicab. Just have some guy ride you down on a bicycle.
You know what's funny? I saw one of those guys 2 weeks ago sitting in Columbus Circle, and I had no idea who was going to him right now.
I mean, normally it's crazy to go.
Saddest pedicab ever. When they're trying to point out things like, hey, right over here on your right is where they do CNN. You're just like, no one gives a fuck. Okay? No one cares. Last night, I got to admit this because I try to be, I'm always telling you guys, hey, we need to be up for the show. You know what I mean? Like, you got to leave some of that stuff behind. Last night I hit a wall of depression. And it was like 3 or 4 different news stories that I'm stupid enough to watch. And also the fact that we have a lot of friends now that have this illness that, believe it or not, around the country, they're not being included in the numbers that you see every day because they're not in the hospital. They would be, but they're just suffering in their homes. And, you find yourself concerned. And then I was thinking about the planet and the economy. And I was just it really, really hit me. And I wasn't shaking out of it. And then I did something completely embarrassing. I took a picture of myself feeling sad and sent it in to our social media. And I'm like, the word I would use for myself we no longer use in, the 2020s.
Sure.
I guess this is acceptable. I was like an 8th grade girl with a new MySpace. I'll just say that. You know what I mean? I remember when Gail was really little, if she ever cried, she went and looked at herself in the mirror, and then she would go like this, I'm crying, and just like enjoyed seeing.
Feel all the feelings.
Yeah. And I literally got up this morning, I go, why did I send that in? You know what I mean? Why did I?
Because you're an influencer. That's why.
That's not the influence I want to do. You know what I mean? I don't want to bum out or make people go, yeah, you're the only one who has it, pussy.
For me, I feel like every day, we do the show and we're feeling up. I'm really just like that girl on TikTok who's doing the dance challenge but crying at the same time. Which is my favorite video of all time.
Smile, though your heart is breaking. Vito, who wrote that song?
Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, he's good. Go help yourself to the prize closet. Go get yourself some chicken wings out of the prize closet.
The prize closet got good.
Vito was mad because they didn't have Chick-fil-A today. They had chicken wings. And he felt like everybody was reaching into the same chicken wings.
Yeah, I look forward to Chick-fil-A Thursdays here at Sirius. It's become a nice tradition for us here. And for some reason, there was no Chick-fil-A Thursday today.
Who's normally in charge of that? Do you even know?
I have no idea. My theories to start was that it was just somebody that works in facilities who was choosing places he liked to order lunch.
That's so funny. It's just his own personal thing.
Yeah, because it was like the first week it was like Joe's Pizza and then Chick-fil-A and Panera. It was just like random places that weren't even that close to here.
Let me just say this. I apologize. You got it worse than me, Vito. You didn't get your Chick-fil-A, and I was just sitting on my couch feeling sad. If I would have known about the Chick-fil-A, I would have taken 2 pictures.
Chick-fil-A sounds great. I've noticed that any outside food sounds great to me right now.
Yeah, I know, except for it also sounds dangerous. Like, I'm always like, I should get a pizza and then fucking break down the one fucking defense that I have.
I was walking my dog, and, now everybody on the street even are wearing masks. So, everyone's masked and gloved up, and I'm walking my dog, and I pass a Burger King where I see one of my neighbors walking into, and she sees me, and the shame of her face. Like, she knows that she's doing something risky and disgusting for Burger King, and it really made me laugh.
She should have been ashamed if you would have saw her 2 months ago at a Burger King.
I know. She looked so embarrassed. And the best is I could see her shame even without being able to see her mouth. Like, I could see in her eyes that she was like, fuck, did she know it was me? This is so embarrassing.
I know.
Like that you would break this for Burger King of all things.
It's like when you run into a neighbor at a titty bar and it's 2:00 in the afternoon and you're both gacked up and you somehow feel like you're the one that should be ashamed instead of him. Like, what are you fucking doing here? Why don't you tell me your backstory, prick? Don't be fucking glaring at me while you got some girl rubbing her ass on your crotch. Anyway, I took that too personal.
I have thought about, I've come close to breaking my rule on it, and the only thing that has done it is the thought of Brooklyn pizza. Like, every once in a while, I'm like, fucking a real pizza. That's what I want.
Yeah. Man, no kidding. All right, people are sending me pictures of their sad faces, so this is making me feel even more embarrassed. No, it isn't. Actually, I'm looking at this. Some of these look meaner than they do sad. Some people think sad is just like murderous looking. All right, so we're getting it together. Every once in a while, you're going to take a picture of yourself looking like you're sad, and you play a John Mayer song because you feel like it all comes together for you.
I sent you Juju's sad one, but hers is actually related to not being able to see a Penguin documentary 3 times in a row. So it's not really related to the same thing you were sad about.
She likes the Penguins, huh?
Yeah, as of yesterday, the penguins. I mean, it went from birds to penguins. Birds are still the most important thing, but when she found out about a penguin, very excited.
I think she's going to be excited when you tell her this. I believe a penguin is a bird.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we showed her the documentary. It seemed like a natural progression, so she's very excited about it. Even a flightless bird is of interest to her.
I say that they do this. They fly underwater.
they do.
That's what I believe. They don't fly in the sky, but if you look at them, like if you go to the penguin thing at the zoo, first of all, A, it's up there with the otters as being the most fun fucking animal to be.
Yeah.
And two, they look like torpedoes. I don't even understand how they swim like that.
They're so incredibly strong in the water, and this was a thing that was pretty amazing. Watching them swim underwater and then shoot out of the water in standing position and then land on their feet. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, the strength, the core strength you need for that.
And then the water is always cold. You know what I mean? It's like Arctic water. But then I was dumb enough, never watched that penguin documentary that's really fucking sad.
No, March of the Penguins, I would not show that to her.
Yeah. Oh,
the one that I played was a Disney version.
Yeah. I watched that March of the Penguins. I ended up taping myself for TikTok, just crying my eyes out. And I write, hey guys.
Doing a little dance.
Hey guys, if I seem a little sad today, I just watched March of the Penguins. Oh yeah, my cousin's neighbor's sick. So, you know, I'm feeling bad. Fucking pussy. Ronnie B. All right, I'm back though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm back.
You're back, baby.
Yeah. I was thinking we get a dart team going as soon as this fucking coronavirus is done.
Oh.
You know? You only need 4 people for darts to have a fucking league
That's
play.
perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really played darts.
I even it's an amazing sport. Probably the sport of kings. I even got a nickname for Chris Stanley.
What is it?
Farts a lot. Farts a lot. It might be a little too on the nose, and also too in the nose. Vito, congratulations on the hero thing too.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. Being Captain Khalees is like, it changed my whole life.
You know what? I feel bad that you're in a steady relationship because you'd be doing nothing but getting strange right now.
You think?
I know so, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I know so. Was that Chris Stanley?
I'm here, Ron.
Is there any way that you could stop moving when you're on, though? It just sounds like you're running back and forth, like you're trying to do your movement. Get your fucking Jenny. Get your Jenny Hut runs in. Jenny's adorable because she was pretty bad on the Instagram today. You know, she was moving and also feeling bad and saying it wasn't a very festive Passover. I didn't know Passover ever was festive.
I don't remember it ever being festive. I went to a number of Passovers, at least 7, and I don't remember it ever really being a happy, great time.
Did you sit in the empty chair? Were you the guy who came in?
I'm sure at least once I fucking sat in that chair, because why would there be an empty chair there other than for someone to sit in? I learned later the reason, but fuck at the time.
I saw a lot of people, friends of mine, posting their Zooms, like their Passover Zooms with all their family.
Ooh. I think we're going to have a Zoom meeting tomorrow. Which means, do I have to download Zoom?
You have it.
Yeah.
I think.
Do I?
Yeah, I think I told you to get it like a week or 2 ago.
You could tell me anything. It doesn't mean I got it. The second, like, any app doesn't happen immediately, I just say, fuck it, and I stop it. I feel like I shouldn't have to wait while that thing spins around. In my day, we never even had anything like that. We used to go outside and play. We used to ride our bikes on the highway. We never wore helmets, and some of us died. Bennington show on a Thursday. Honestly, as weird as it is, it does seem like the week goes fast doing the show.
It does. The week goes fast. The shows go fast. But then somehow the time is standing still. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, time means nothing. And I find that I'm sleeping 2 4-hour shifts. I don't sleep longer than 4 hours. I get 4 hours here, 4 hours there, and then I don't know what time it is. And I think this morning for breakfast I had pasta because I'm like, really, I'm working third shift. Doesn't matter. I'm sorry.
None of this means anything.
Sorry, Gail. I don't have a cool Burger King open to have a big ass Whopper. That's funny that Burger King is essential.
Yeah,
I
don't
watched,
know why they're allowed
Cuomo-
to stay open.
I watched Cuomo, and he said if we keep going like this, he was congratulating us. He goes, I can't even believe this many New Yorkers are staying in. He goes, we keep going this way, we're going to be able to open up a couple businesses maybe soon. And they go, what kind of businesses? And he goes like this, I don't know, video arcades? What the fuck? What do you want me to say? What do I have for you? Open up a video arcade. Is that where you want to go? And I was just like, oh, forget it. We're just trying to ask some nice questions. Fucking Cuomo. Well, you know what? We don't get the leader we want. We get the leader we deserve. It almost seems like the mafia won the war when he's on talking. You know?
Yeah.
He says he wants to bring all the families together.
What?
And he's like this. If I fucking catch any of you standing outside fucking talking to each other, bing, bang, boom, your fucking eye will be out to here. Who wants the Mickey Mantle treatment? I'll take this fucking bat and smack everybody to death with it. We're like, hey, we're going back in. Don't worry about it. He told people, look, why don't you just drink bleach if you're so worried? What am I supposed to do? Do. Gail, I got this text earlier today. You're going to be shocked at the surprise guests that I have lined up on the phone. Mystery guests, enter and sign in, please.
Oh, am I supposed to give some kind of a clue?
Oh,
Jeffrey Gurian!
Jeffrey! Oh, I'm so
Hey, guys.
glad to hear your voice.
Oh, you have no idea how happy I am to be able to speak to you guys. You have been so wonderful to me. The two of
Jeffrey's,
you, your whole
you sound
team.
so strong. You sound so
I got
strong.
my voice back. You know, I had no voice when I spoke to you. Previously, I literally had lost my voice. I guess that's part of the pneumonia. I couldn't speak. I don't know what happened to me. And today is the first day that I sound to me like myself. You know, I kept hoping that I could talk on the phone. Last Friday, I was hoping that by Monday I'd be okay. This thing has beaten me up like so unbelievably.
Wow.
I had no strength at all. I couldn't speak.
Now, when did it hit you? When did the corona hit you, Jeffrey?
4 days after I saw you, we taped that podcast on the 7th, and on the 11th, I came down with what I thought was a cold in the beginning. I started sneezing and coughing, and then the next day, I started to get a tickle in my throat. And when I get a cold, I always get a sore throat with it, and I keep Z-Pak in the house. Luckily, this was like a miracle. I had 2 courses of Z-Pak. So I started myself on it right away, and I truly believe that saved my life because it didn't interfere with my breathing. I wound up with double pneumonia, and I didn't know I had some stupid thermometer from the 1800s, like my great-grandmother would have used. You know, it was a glass with mercury. You're supposed to shake it down. I couldn't even read it.
I remember those.
Yeah,
I never could read those things.
You can't read. It's impossible. I still don't know if it worked or not. I couldn't read it. And I went into like a panic because I'm like, how am I going to know if I have fever or not? But like every night, I was nauseous from morning to night, literally 24/7. I was never so sick in my life, and so I figured I had fever because I was getting these night sweats, where like I had full body chills. My body was shaking as if I was naked in the Antarctic. That's how I could explain it. I couldn't stop the shaking, and then I would feel cool. So I figured I must have fever, but then the fever would come back again. So I spent 14 days in the house thinking every day I would get better, but it was getting worse. And on the 14th night, and I don't say this lightly, I was suicidal. I went out to my terrace. I was wondering what would happen if you go off the terrace. And I'm a very spiritual person, and I don't say that lightly. I couldn't take the pain anymore. I didn't know what to do. I just prayed. And I realized that in the morning I'd have to call 911. I was afraid to go to the emergency room because of my heart condition. You know, I was in a high risk category, and I know there's a lot of germs in the emergency room. So I was trying to put it off. And I had called my doctor on the Friday, and he thought that I should go to be tested. But I didn't have the strength to even put on clothes to leave the house. So that was a big thing, because when I decided I had to go to the hospital, I'm like, you can't go in your underwear. You got to put on something, right? So I take a shower, and I'm trying to figure out, what do you wear to go to the hospital? So I put on some track pants and a T-shirt and a hoodie and a sport jacket, because I had to take all my stuff, my ID and some money and stuff, and I put on cologne. Can you believe that? I actually went.
Yes.
I don't know who I thought I was going to run into there. I wasn't thinking straight. I was feverish for 2 weeks already. And then I realized I had to pack a bag, and I'm like, I didn't know what to take, so I Googled, what do you take to the hospital, you know? And I packed a bag with all kinds of things that I didn't need, like a small flashlight, you know, and a change of underwear, which was cool. I brought a bunch of those, you know, and so I called 911, and by that time, I was bleeding from my nose. I don't know what that was about. I think that's from the Plavix that I'm on. There's like a lot of bleeding from my nose. So they asked me my symptoms on the phone, and I told them. And I don't remember how long it took. It felt like it was pretty quick. This amazing ambulance team showed up, two of the nicest guys in the world. And this guy took my hand, and he said to me, "Don't worry, you're going to be all right." And he said, "I've seen a lot of people already that I've taken, and you have a very good physical presentation." Because I was able to get up on the stretcher on my own. So they strapped me in, and they put like this big kind of mask over me, and they got me in the freight elevator of my building and wheeled me out to the ambulance. And I said, "Can you take me to Lenox Hill, because that's where my cardiologist is?" And they're like, "No, it's too far. We have to get you in right away. We're taking you to NYU Langone," which was one of the first blessings, because, you know, you're always being guided, right? And so NYU Langone happened to be one of the hospitals that's doing research on Plaquenil, and they had it there. A lot of the hospitals didn't even have those pills. So they got me to the emergency room, and I laid there for hours, just hours. And, you know, they were so crowded already when I got there. And I was just begging for something to take away the nausea. I'm like, I can't take it anymore. And they had me next to a woman who literally was screaming with every breath. Every time she exhaled, she screamed. And I was like, I was going out of my mind. And then I realized how scared she must have been. You know, I just felt bad for her. And they started me on an IV, and they gave me something for the nausea. And then they did about 3 of the nasal swabs. And they put this thing up your nose. It feels like it's going to your brain. They apologize first. I'm like, I don't care. Do whatever you have to do. And then they came and they took a chest x-ray of me, and they did an ultrasound of my lungs. And that's when they came back, and it was shocking to me. They said, "You have double pneumonia." And I knew I had to have the coronavirus, but I didn't think of it in terms of pneumonia, and that really scared me. And they put me on oxygen, and they kept me on oxygen for about a day. And they were debating whether to send me home or not. And I was pleading. I said, "Please, I can't go home. I came here because I'm so sick. Because if you don't have certain symptoms, they send you home." And so I guess because I had double pneumonia, they decided to keep me. And so hours later, they wheeled me upstairs. They're like, "We're taking you to a room. We have a room for you," which was amazing. And they took me to this room in the Kimmel Center, the most beautiful room that I have ever seen. I was too sick to appreciate it. It was a room that they used for cancer patients. It was an isolation room. And they wheeled me in. Only one staff person is allowed in at a time. They were so concerned about transferring the germs. So it was a huge room with a private bathroom, and it overlooked the East River, and it had a television that was the length of the entire wall. And on that TV, it was like remote controlled. You could order your food, you could change the lights, you could change the shades in the room. It had a million things, but nobody really knew how to work it because most of the staff came from other floors. They were so overworked. And I have to say how grateful I am to every one of those people because they literally saved me. But they were so overworked that people weren't sure how to use the equipment even, because they took them from all over the hospital. So I stayed there for two and a half days. On the second day, they took out my oxygen to see how I would do on my own. And thank God my oxygen, I was able to stay at around 95% on my own. So they said that I didn't need that anymore. And that's when they started me on the Plaquenil. They didn't give me any more Z-Pak because I broke out with a rash over my entire body. And they were concerned that it might have been a reaction to the Z-Pak, so they didn't want to give me more, but they said I had already been on it for 10 days. They didn't have a pillow. For my first whole day, there was no pillows. They were so short of equipment and stuff, so they thought maybe the rash on my back was... They took this, like, rough blanket and rolled it up into, like, a ball for me to try to use it as a pillow of some kind, and it was very irritating. So anyway, the second day they start me on Plaquenil and zinc, and they fed me. They brought me food, and the care was amazing. I tried not to call anybody if I didn't have to, but there were times I just needed... They covered me with ice packs to bring down my fever. They put ice packs not only on my forehead but under my arms. It wasn't even uncomfortable. You'd think if somebody put ice under your arm that it wouldn't be comfortable. It felt so wonderful. Now, when my temperature finally came down to 98.6, I was in tears. I couldn't believe it. I was very emotional the whole time, just by the fact of what was going on and how dedicated these people were. So after 2.5 days, they said to me that they felt that I was getting strong enough that they were going to transfer me to another room for physical therapy because they wanted to see how my oxygen went if I was walking. And I didn't want to be transferred, but they said they needed these rooms for sicker people. So they transferred me to this other building, and as I got to the room, I heard them say bed 4. And so I realized I'm not going to be alone anymore. And they put me in a room with 3 other very sick men. I was the first one to get there. In the bed next to me, a man came in, and I was wondering why he was so quiet. Because he didn't speak English. It was a very old Chinese man who was very, very sick. And he was coughing so hard, he was choking on his saliva, and I was scared that he wasn't going to make it, and he couldn't really speak. And I was calling the nurse on his behalf. And because they were so overworked, it takes a long time for somebody to come to your room to see what you need. I was also concerned because I was so weak, and he was coughing, and that's one of the ways that you spread this thing. And I was like, am I in danger? And the nurse, I don't know if she was kidding or not, she goes, well, we have this curtain here. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's not really much of a protection, a thin curtain. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're listening. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the details.
Yeah. So he was just so sick. Across from me, they brought in another man who couldn't stop throwing up the whole time, and then there was a third man, an Orthodox Jewish man who his oxygen suddenly dropped from 93 to 80, and they had to rush him to put him on a ventilator. And this was where I was for 2 days. It was kind of a nightmarish situation. We had to share one small bathroom between all of us. it was where I learned that there's no vanity in hospitals. You can't.
Now,
about
Jeffrey,
Yeah.
when they sent you home, you were still pretty sick. You've been sick for like a week after you got home, right?
Yeah, I'm still not back. I'm sick just about a month already. When they sent me home, yeah, they packed me up with the rest of the Plaquenil to take it home and zinc, and they put me. They had an ambulance team come to get me. They said they wanted to discharge me by noon, but because they were so overrun with cases, by 2:00 I was like saying, "Please, can you get me home? Can you just send me out?" You know, because the circumstances were horrible. They were just nightmarish. And by 3:30, they finally came for me. And one of the nurses was kind enough to go to the pharmacy to get me my medication because the ambulance guy said they can't make any stops. They strapped me in. They wrapped me like a mummy, Ron. I couldn't believe it. They even covered my face. I said, "People are going to think I passed away. Could you please just uncover my face?" You know, and they drove me home, and they brought me up to my apartment. They carried my bags in. They didn't know what to do for me. The people are so kind, just so amazingly kind. And if I didn't already say this, I have to say that you and Gail have been so supportive. You've been such a good friend, and it means so much because you talked about it on the air. I got hundreds of messages from your loyal fans, that messages of support. And it's amazing what that means when you're so sick. It's just so incredible. You know, the comedy community got behind me, and they sent me a million messages, and they made videos for me. And I got messages from people, Jim Norton and Bill Burr and Bert Kreischer and just Kroll and Mulaney. People just sent me very meaningful messages that really, really
any middle
helped.
acts, or was it just big headliners?
It was what? Any middle acts?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of. And by the way, I haven't forgotten that you invented the term "thank you, ladies and gentlemen." Good evening,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. Do you know how much
Now-
I used "thank you so much" in the hospital?
It was so funny.
And every time I said "thank you so much," I thought of our day together.
It was really funny. It was a really funny interview, Jeffrey. Now, do you know where you got the coronavirus from?
You know, my last night out, of course, was at a comedy show. I went to National Lampoon had a show at this place called Caveat down on the Lower East Side, and there was an earlier show at UCB, and we were already being warned not to go in crowds. And so I had decided I'm not going to go to the UCB thing, and then it got canceled anyway. And I decided, all right, I'm just going to go to the National Lampoon thing. So no one knows where you breathe this shit in. I mean, it could have been anywhere. I'm not saying that it was there. I kind of stayed by myself. I said hello to a few people, and then I kind of stayed on my own. But what was interesting was there was a Trader Joe's down there, and I went and I stocked up on food, not knowing that I was going to be sick in the next day or two and would have needed all that food. But for some reason, and he told me, it's only a couple of blocks away. Turned out to be like half a mile away. I walked and I got this stuff. But I don't know exactly who I came into contact with and where I got it. All it takes, I guess, is a breath in the wrong place, you know? I was shopping days before they were talking about social distancing, and people were lined up right next to each other. You know,
but you think it might? You think you might have started getting sick maybe 2 days after?
After I saw
know what
you?
I mean? Yeah, I mean, like literally, 2 days after you were at the Trader Joe's and all that kind of stuff.
That was the next day, actually.
That was the next day.
It was a Tuesday. It was Tuesday, the 10th, and then on the 11th was when I started getting sick. And, one of my assistants was sneezing too, and I made him put on a mask, but he didn't get sick. But, you can carry this thing without being sick or without knowing it. That's the danger.
Right. Had you been to Gotham?
Pardon me?
Had you been to Gotham before that?
Yeah, we shot something at Gotham the night before with Chris Mazzilli. We were doing a video. And
Because somebody told me that Jimmy picked up.
yeah, he called me today. He called me
Yeah.
today. He's still on oxygen. He was so sick. He was worse than me.
Unbelievable.
He also had double pneumonia, and he called me this afternoon, just about an hour ago. We got off the phone. We had a long talk because he wanted to compare notes. And we had a lot of very similar symptoms. And he's also on the Plaquenil.
Uh-huh.
You know, it seems that there's two different kinds. He was on one kind, and then they switched him to another, and he said that's what did the trick for him. But he's, you know, thank God he's okay. I was praying for him too, as sick as I was. You know, I'm a big believer in that, in the power of prayer and the power of thought, and it's so helpful when you know that people are thinking about you. It just gives you that extra strength to fight through.
Did it make up that I jinxed you by doing that joke?
That was so terrible. You know, I expected you to say that someday when Jeffrey dies, and hopefully that'll be in a long time. But instead you said, hopefully that'll be soon. and
then
I was like shocked. I'm like, why would he say that? He's such a good friend. And I knew you were just, you know, I knew you were joking, but it stayed on my mind as I was getting sicker and sicker. I'm like, I hope this doesn't come true.
So when he writes to me, he's like writing to me, and he's like, why would you do that? And I'm like, Jeffrey, I'm writing back. I go, Jeffrey, I don't have the power that you think I have over life and death. But I go like this, but I take my curse off. I take it away.
Right. He took off the Bennington curse, and then I started to get better right away.
Yeah.
See that? But that day was very special. We had so much fun. And I tell you, I laugh every time. Even when I was in the hospital, I'm thinking that you came up with the good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before that, people just said good evening. They didn't have any ending to it. But you were the genius that figured out to add ladies and gentlemen.
I don't even remember that joke. I really don't.
It was the funniest shit. I can't stop thinking about it because I really think that I made up thank you so much.
He thinks that he added so much to thank you. He goes, and now
I swear that I'm the first
it.
person ever to say thank you so much. And so many people say it now.
Yeah.
And I wonder, what did they say before? Just thank you, you know? They would say it maybe a few times, but no one said thank you so much until I started it.
Right.
Which is amazing.
Now, here's the thing. The fact that they didn't test you or try to figure out where you got in all this, it goes to show how far we are from, you know what I mean, like doing any kind of detective work with this. It's just fucking triage at this point.
They don't even know if you can become reinfected. Because I called, the hospital called me to follow up, and I said to them, am I in danger? Because I haven't left my house. I'm afraid, to go for the mail or do anything. You know, I went out on my terrace a couple of times, and I put on the mask that they gave me when they brought me home, because I don't even know if you can just breathe it in the air. So I called the hospital, and they said they don't know either, that it hasn't been proven that you have immunity once you get it. And it's really scary, because once you have this thing, your immune system is low. So, like,
I thought you were going to have immunity. I was going to get you to run out and get me some groceries. I thought that would be the thing we'd have you do.
I can't wait for the day when I can do that. Believe me, I will do anything you need, Ron. You've been a godsend to me. You've been so kind, and I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. It's a very special thing when someone stays in touch with you.
I was fucking Jeffrey. There was a part of me that was worried that once you went to that hospital, that would be it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
I
thought of that
problems
too.
And all that.
Believe me, I thought of that too. And
at that point, I hadn't heard about people getting back out again. You know.
Well, I try to stay positive, man. I mean, that's that's my thing, and I try to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So while I'm in there, I'm not really dwelling on that. I'm just thinking. In the moment, like I need to get my strength, and I need to get past this, and I mean, it's just, the level of illness it's hard to explain to anybody what it feels like to be nauseous from morning to night, and then you can't throw up. It's not part of it. It just stays that you're just nauseous, and your head is killing you, and your eyes hurt, and you get back pain, and every part of your body aches, and then you get full body chills on top of it. It's a fucking nightmare. There's no way to really describe it.
You know, because of you two, Jeffrey, I was, anytime I've heard, you know, Cuomo will bring this up that, you know, while the numbers are going up or the deaths are going up, they keep bragging that they have more and more releases from the hospital. But because of your experience, I'm like, yeah, but, you know, are we pushing people out just because we need room? I was thinking of, you know, I was happy to hear that you were out of the hospital, but it was so difficult to think of you going back to, you know, being so sick without someone to care for you.
That's the thing. When you go home, I mean, I happen to live by myself. My kids can't come. I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't let anybody take a chance and come in. People in my building have been so kind. There's one neighbor in particular who insists on shopping for me, and they leave the stuff in front of my door. They ring the bell so I know it's there, and then they leave it because I won't let anybody take a chance. My apartment could be filled with germs. Who knows? I air it out. You know, I open the windows and stuff, but again, nobody knows if you can reinfect yourself. I had to throw away all the food that I had. I was concerned because sometimes, you know, you eat a little of something and then you put it away. I don't know if there's germs on that food. So I had to throw away tons of stuff that I had bought before. You know, it's just scary because you don't know. You know, and again, if the hospitals don't know, people have no experience with this. Everybody's guessing.
Now, when you talked to Jimmy Big Balls, did he have any idea where he got it from?
No, and he started out the same way as me. He started out thinking that it was a cold. I don't know if anybody really knows where you get it from because all you have to do is walk by somebody. You know, like in the airports. I mean, supposedly they said millions of people left China before this was even announced. So that's why it's all over the world. I mean, you know, if all you have to do is walk by somebody who sneezed or coughed, then you could get it anywhere. You know, so I don't know. I was in places where there was people. I didn't see anybody particularly who looked sick. You know, people weren't shaking hands. They were doing fist bumps and elbow bumps and stuff. You know, and you know me, I've had Purell on my belt for 50 years already.
Yeah,
before it was even invented, I carried Purell. So
you were the one who invented it.
I was. That was right after I did. I created Thank You So Much, and then I invented Purell. And then
it wasn't even Purell back then. It was Pure F. They hadn't even worked up to L. It was Pure F when you started using it. It was the very
long ago
stages.
I created it.
Yeah.
That's right. It's always hanging from my belt. You know, I'm always so careful.
You sound like yourself again. This is amazing to me.
It's truly, it's such a gift. I can't tell you. My gratitude is endless. I never thought that I was waiting. I told you I was waiting every day to feel strong enough to talk to you. Today is like Thursday, right?
Yeah.
I lost track of the days. I had to look at the newspaper to see what day it is every day because one day just goes into the next. And when you're sick, I had no idea. I had to keep checking the calendar because you can't focus. It's like I would sleep for a few hours at a time. I couldn't find a comfortable place for myself. You know how sometimes you look for that cool spot when you lay down? You know? You put your head on the pillow and it feels cool and you feel a little better. That didn't exist. There was no comfortable place for myself. It was nonstop from morning to night. That's why I said I had lost hope. I didn't know what I was going to do anymore. And
you actually wrote to me once that you asked God to take you. You said you were in that much pain.
I did. I prayed for God to take me. Thank God He didn't listen. Because I was. That's how sick I was. I didn't know what to do. No medicine that I took. I was taking NyQuil and Dayquil and Dramamine. I took so many Dramamine to try to take away the nausea, and nothing worked. And, you know, maybe nausea doesn't sound serious, but it is.
It's terrible.
You know, when you have it.
No, it's terrible to be nauseous.
When you have it nonstop, It's hold on, I got to turn this off.
No, leave it on. I want to get your phone number.
It's like it's for me, nausea is one of the worst things. And usually when you're nauseous, you can throw up and it goes away, but not with this. It didn't let me throw up, and it just stayed.
Yeah.
And so, I'm in such a weakened condition. It feels so good to be able to talk to somebody. I wasn't able to take any calls. I couldn't speak to people. I spoke to my kids a couple of times, but I had no voice. I sounded like, Richie Tinkin, from the comic strip talks in a loud whisper because he had surgery on his throat. That's how I was speaking. And he's one of the people who's been very supportive, called me every day, and Chris Mazzilli and, Noam Dwarman from the Comedy Cellar. The support has truly been amazing, and I can't thank people enough. It means so much. It's so hard to be sick when you're alone,
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's a frightening feeling because it's just you. There's nobody there to help you, and again, it's the kind of thing where you don't want to subject your family to this. You'd feel terrible if you gave it to somebody in your family. That's so. There's really no choice. People are having a very hard time when they live with their family, and they're sick. They have to isolate themselves in one room. Because it's a terrible thing. Because it's obviously it's normal to want to help someone in your family, but it's a very risky thing because this thing is a beast. It's a fucking beast, and it's an amazing thing. As I said, I'm grateful every minute. I'm not complaining about anything. I wound up with pleurisy a few days ago, which they said comes from it's an inflammation of the lining of the lungs. So I had pain every time I breathed. I got like a stabbing pain in my back and my shoulder, and I didn't even care. I just took more Z-Pak. I'm not complaining about anything. Just the fact that I made it out of the hospital and that I'm home. And I can't say enough about the people that are working in the hospitals.
That thing that takes place 7 o'clock every night now, right?
Yeah. People, I hear it.
Yeah.
People are screaming and hitting stuff and making noise, just applauding.
Yeah, it's really touching.
It's so touching. It's so moving. But being there and seeing them, there was a time, like I had to wait more than 2 hours to get Tylenol, and it was at the door of my room. The nurse said, "Your Tylenol is here." And my head was hurting so much, and I said, "Can I please have it?" And he said, "As soon as I can." And the door to my room was maybe 15 feet from my bed, but you're not allowed out in the hall. I couldn't walk and get it myself. It took more than 2 hours to get the Tylenol from my door to my bed. That's how busy they were. And I couldn't complain because I was so grateful for the help that I was getting. It's just the people were just. It's a fucking nightmare. That's all you can say. They're just overrun. And
they're doing
so
incredible.
dedicated.
I mean, it's just incredible. It's hard to even believe. You, Jeffrey, have been beating death every 2 years, and once every 2 years now, you go right up to the.
They reminded me, Emilio Savone from New York Comedy reminded me that when I had the heart attack. And you remember we were partying the night before with the Interrobang, and I want to thank Deb also for her support. We were at a party on the Lower East Side at Sammy's Romanian, I think, and I ate
Sammy's
so much
Romanian.
cholesterol that the next day I had the heart attack. We were dancing, remember? We had the best time.
It was the greatest time. You had the heart attack. Chris Stanley fell and busted his whole head open.
Busted his head open, right. I remember that, right. And the next day I had the heart attack.
Yeah.
That's why we'll never top that party.
Pardon me?
We were at one point we were drinking straight chicken fat. Just
everything there was like globs of cholesterol. There was like
I know.
Plates of cholesterol came out, and then dancing. And then the next day I have the heart attack. I had never had a problem with my heart in my life, And 5 days later I was on stage at New York Comedy Club, And Emilio said to me, "What are you, nuts? You just had a heart attack." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's hard to get a spot here.
It
I don't want
really
to
is
lose
not
my
easy.
spot."
Yeah. Well, Jeffrey, you're out. You sound great. God bless you. I was
Thank
scared
you,
you were
Ron.
never going to be able to come back out of that. I was glad that so many comics reached out to you and said so many nice things.
They even made me a video, Ron.
Yeah.
It was so special, and just so much of the thanks goes to you and Gail and your team. I'm telling you, I can't thank you enough. It was
We'll
just
try.
an amazing thing to have good friends like that.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. I guess you're aware now. We lost Vic Henley the other
Yes.
day, and
Yes,
it's
I
just,
heard.
we've had so
Terrible.
much bad news. So just to get you back is, it's just a nice thing to hear and gives us a little hope for everybody.
You're very loved, Jeffrey.
Thank
you
so
are,
much,
Jeffrey.
Gail. And the feeling is mutual, believe me. You guys are like family to me.
Well,
And-
let me tell you, I was going to ask if I could, your daughters, if I could have your material and, you know what I mean, try to put together an hour, as a salute to you. I thought would have been pretty nice. But, all right, we'll stay in touch, okay, Jeffrey?
I hope so. Thank you so much
All right.
again. Thank you. Thanks
Take care.
to all of you. And I hope you're all safe and healthy. And, and we'll stay in touch. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Thanks so
Talk to you
much.
soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Jeffrey Gurian, unbelievable rough time he had with the coronavirus, and I do have, and I don't, I don't want to mention names because, it's up to each person, I guess, how they present this. But I have friends right now who are deadly sick, in bed, have been for a while. Not going to the hospital because they feel like if you're not at a certain place, you're better off at home. But their numbers aren't mixed into these numbers that you see every day. You know what I mean? You're just seeing
No.
the numbers of people who are going to the hospital. And, I was seeing it. New Orleans is maybe even passing. New York now, Chicago is getting frightening numbers. It's happening, all different places. They're telling us it's not, going to go away. I mean, even with Jeffrey, they're not giving him any hope about, okay, you beat it, you're done,
Right.
And
honestly, hearing from his story, it's no matter what kind of health or what age you are, listen to what a risk it is to just say, well, I don't think it would kill me, or I don't think it would be a big deal. Even if you survive it, it's clearly the ordeal he went through.
Terrible.
It just sounds so horrible. And honestly, his account of the hospital was just so terrifying. It's both things, like you're so grateful that these people are doing this, but at the same time, the circumstances of just being in a room with four of you and having to hear that level of suffering all around you, and I'm sure you're getting no peace
and Gail,
no rest.
oh my God, Gail, the pillows, the lack of pillows. I felt like he derailed me a little bit with the pillows. And he actually said, "Are you still there?" And I wasn't. I was just fucking. I got off and I was thinking about the 1993 Phillies, and then that took me back to 1980. And I'm like, if you look at the outfield alone, you got Lazinski, you got, Maddox. I went away. I'm not going to lie to you. And then I'm like, wait, was Dave Cash there or Manny Trio? Who was playing second then? But, he called me back in, and then, we moved on and we found out where the Tylenol was. But God bless him. You know what I mean? He went through hell.
Yeah, I mean, that honestly, that just sounds so difficult. So, take that as, you don't want any level of this whatsoever.
Yeah, you don't want it. You don't want it. Well, I mean, Stanley's level sounds doable. If, in fact, he ever had it.
I mean, you hear what Jeffrey went through. I think Chris has a mild cold at best.
At best.
I hope I do. That'd be great.
Why would it be great, Chris? Why are you yelling that?
Oh, sorry. I mean, it's just so I don't want coronavirus.
Well,
So,
it would have kicked in by now if you had the bad kind.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. I wish that we could get that guarantee that if you have it once, that's it. I would love to hear that news.
All
so
right,
that you
I
could
didn't
just
even
be like a superhuman.
I didn't even know about this. Frank from the Bronx is there?
Buddies,
Hey, Frank.
I made it through the ventilator. 4 days on the ventilator.
You're kidding me.
Whoa.
4 days on the ventilator. My friend's wife, thank God, works at the hospital. So I think at some point she had my headphones in my ear and I heard the show because that was one of my requests as they were pulling in. 2 o'clock, XM, 2 o'clock, XM. But, yeah, I was pretty scary, dude, because the 4 days that I was under, don't remember a goddamn thing. Don't remember.
I had no idea you were there, Frank.
Yeah, well, I think I'm pretty lucky compared to the couple of guys that were sitting next to me that I lost. I lost one guy on my left, 73-year-old dude, and then the guy on my right, 51 years old. Both died. They were on for 8. One was on for 8 days. The other one was on for 12 days. But I'm back home. I don't feel normal yet. I'm still freaking out, thinking that I'm going to get it again. But 16 pounds lighter. Not the happy 16 pounds lighter, but I'm just trying to get back to normal. And I think I still have a job. I'm not sure. I'll find out. But crazy, Ron, crazy stuff. And then I hear Vic going down, who I loved, who always made me laugh, that crazy Alabama, crazy bastard. And then I realize how lucky I am that I'm able to listen to this show and hug my kids again. I mean, to a certain extent, it's been torturous for me and my family. And, you're alone. I mean, if I didn't have my friend's wife in the hospital, I don't know what I would have done, because when I opened my eyes and when they took the ventilator off, they first took it off. They said, we're going to lower it to 40%. They took it off. Somehow she told me when they first took it off, I was agitated. I wasn't breathing, and then they had to put it back on for one more day. But she said, I'm lucky compared to some of the other guys, but no underlying issues, no high blood pressure, nothing. I just got hit. And it's crazy, Ron. Crazy stuff. But I'm alive.
I can't believe this. I had no idea you were even in there, Frank. I feel fucking terrible.
It's not your fault. What am I going to do? I have no way of communicating. I can't even tell. I couldn't. My old man, who lives out on Long Island, was basically trying to get into the hospital. They basically told him, you can't see your kid. You can't see your kid. It's like, got to see my oldest boy. But we're FaceTiming now. I get to see my nephews and all that stuff. But listen, I don't know why I got it. I'm trying to backtrack of where I got it or who I got it from. I didn't make out with any whores. I'm not sure what happened, but I don't know, man. It's just great to hear you guys and to be upright and to be alive. And who knows? I might just get into comedy now. I don't know.
Dude, we could use you. Honestly, you're a very funny guy. We're always glad to hear from you. And I'm just so happy that you're okay right now. I'm just so happy about that.
I'm so grateful of that.
I'm so happy to be alive. I'm so happy to get to hear you guys. And I love hearing that little juju in the back. It makes me feel like I want to have kids again. So God bless everyone. And hey, Paul, tell Stanley over there to you don't have to keep the thermometer in your ass. I learned a lesson. Be good.
All right.
And hopefully we'll talk soon, guys. Thank you. And I'll be listening as usual.
Okay, thank you, my friend. It's Frank from the Bronx,
Take care, Frank.
A guy that we love because he literally talks like Bronx-style. You know what I mean? Like everything about him just makes me think that movie's even better than I thought it was. Chris Stanley, somebody wrote on Twitter that when they were saying that, well, Jeffrey kept saying, we just want to thank Ron and Gail and their team. It was like, how hard would it be to say Chris and Vito? But to be totally honest, I don't think Chris and Vito did much about this, Gail?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if did you guys reach out to him personally?
I texted Jeffrey, and I mean, he just says, maybe he forgot my name. I don't know. I haven't really spoken with Jeffrey in a while, so I don't know. I did get him into that Sirius XM Christmas party the day before his heart attack. I mean,
What, he's got to thank you for that forever?
And how many years does that go back now?
probably 4 years, Ron.
So in 4 fucking years, literally, a college education ago.
Still, you can be grateful. You can just throw my name out there. Give a shout out to old Chris Stanley.
There's something else, Farts a lot. You know that? You're something else.
I'm not Farts a lot. It's just a comic book character that bears a slight resemblance.
I don't think it's slight.
Slight.
It's dead on.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was a photograph. Man, this thing makes you, hearing those 2 stories makes you even scared of this coronavirus, right?
I know, and I'm so happy to hear that Frank is out of that situation. He's tremendously lucky when you look at the numbers of that, and I'm really grateful we got to talk to him just now.
Why don't we take a break here? We'll try to get it all back together. You heard from 2 coronavirus people that beat it in a row, but both of them are in a weakened state from it. But we will take a break. We're right back. It's the Bennington Show.
Faction Talk 103, it's the Bennington Show. Faction Talk 103, it's the Bennington Show.
It is the Bennington Show. We were just talking to 2 of our friends who are back out of the hospital. Jeffrey Gurian had the coronavirus, and Frank from the Bronx had the coronavirus. He was on a ventilator for 4 days. He describes it as a nightmare, but they're both out now, doing better. On hold, ready to talk to us. His big special is out on Netflix. Hey, Big Boy. You can also hear him on his podcast, The Bert Cast, and 2 Bears, 1 Cave, available wherever you get your podcast. It's Bert Kreischer. Bert.
What's up, Ronnie? How you doing?
First of all, so good to hear your voice. Everything going well for you?
Yeah, everything's good over here. I haven't drank in 21 days, so I feel fucking phenomenal.
21 days without a drink. Now I know the world's upside down. You know what I mean? Nothing makes sense anymore.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast. I was like, Rogan had this guy, some doctor, about the coronavirus right before the coronavirus went big, and he was like, and I heard Rogan saying, so are you telling me that overweight people who drink a lot, smoke cigars, smoke weed, don't exercise, that they're the most vulnerable? And I literally was like, I thought he was talking to me, like through the podcast. And then I run into Rogan and I go, you said this on the podcast, and he goes, I was talking to you. That's exactly who I was talking to. So I kind of pulled back. And it's kind of bizarre to be the only one opening a bottle of Jack at 6 p.m. in your house.
Right, yeah. It's hard to party with your kids. They're not.
Yeah, it is.
They're not into it these days. They're different. They're a whole different breed. Now, how are you spending your quarantine, Bert?
Oddly enough, I'm busier than I've ever been. I start podcasting or doing interviews at like 5 a.m. I do like call-in radio interviews because everyone's looking for content. And so I'm calling in, and from 5 until 10, I'm doing podcasts from 11 till about 1. And then Segura and I do our podcast once a week. Burr and I do our podcast once a week. And then I do my podcast. So I feel like I'm literally getting up at 5, working until like 4, try to get on the treadmill from 4 to 6, and then I make dinner.
This is the first time in your life you're like working a real, structured life.
Yeah, it stinks. I'm like, I feel like there's no razzle dazzle. Like, especially with no drinking and no Xanax. I'm also not taking Xanax, which is such a great fucking drug. No marijuana, no nothing. I'm like, the only joy I'm having right now is randomly The girls, we watched This Is the End and Tropic Thunder this week, and both of them, there's this actor named Jay Baruchel who's in both of them.
Yeah.
And so they think Jay Baruchel must be some huge movie star. So now my wife and I have planned just playing Jay Baruchel movies on accident throughout the entire week, so that they're literally like, who is this guy? He's in everything.
That's so hilarious. So you're kind of also doing a prank show on your children while all this is going on. Now,
Yeah, it's been a blast. They're doing homeschooling, and so I'm homeschooling. We're trying to homeschool Isla. Dude,
Yeah.
if this had been the Dust Bowl, I would have given up on this kid and be like, join a circus. Learn how to pick pockets. You're not going to make it, kid.
that is so hilarious. Well, first of all, you weren't the best student that anybody's ever seen. It took you a while to get out of school.
Yeah. Oh, I got demoted to coach. So, like, oddly enough, both the girls have to do physical education classes. So then they just come out to the man cave at some point, and they're like, Mom says I got to talk to Coach Kreischer. So I'll be like, get on the treadmill, do some burpees. We did a workout. The three of us did a workout yesterday, and it was, I thought, when you film something, you're like, I bet I look good. I look like I'm phoning it in so bad. And the girls do the full workout, and I just look horrible. I feel like I'm gaining weight. Even though I'm not drinking, I feel like I'm gaining weight.
I think the alcohol used to burn off a lot of fat for you.
I swear to God, Ron, I really believe that. I believe my body had fine-tuned itself to work on I was never more inspired to get on the treadmill than when I was hungover. Because I felt like I had to punish myself. I was like, This is what you get, asshole. You want to go out and party all night? Then you fucking run. Today you're running 6 miles. And now I'm just like,
who needs it? You know what I mean? Look how good I'm being. Look what I'm doing with my life. Now, here's the thing. You were in the middle of a big tour, right? When this whole thing shut you down. You were stuck somewhere in America trying to get back to LA, right?
Yeah, I was in New Orleans, and it was like 2 hours till showtime. And the promoter came in the bus and was like, we're pulling it. And I was like, what? Yeah. And he was like, yeah, we're pulling it. And, man, people were outside my tour bus just, don't quit being a Hollywood faggot. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And so we got like literally they were chanting that at one point. And so we got on the tour bus, drove from New Orleans to L.A., and stopped along the way like Paul Revere going, the virus is coming, the virus is coming.
Yeah. Well, New Orleans is in terrible shape right now. I mean, you probably got out of there right in time.
I saw that coming. People were still in the streets partying their balls off. When we pulled out of the tour bus at like midnight, there were people everywhere. And I was like, I remember thinking, it's like that scene from that movie with Dustin Hoffman, and you're like, and you see the one guy in the movie theater coughing, and it just goes to everyone, and then you see everyone get in their cars. You're like, and it's the same thing with Florida. Is you're like, it's not the people in Florida that you have to worry about. It's all those spring breakers that came down from Ohio and Delaware and Alabama that get the virus and then go home. And you're like, oh, this is. I'll tell you what really freaked me out, Ron. We did the week before the virus, like before it went, like everyone knew about it. I have been in D.C. at Constitution Hall, and it was a big venue. And on my second show, I heard someone cough, and all I thought was, like, I told a joke, and some guy coughed laughing, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to get really bad really quick, especially if we're doing shows in front of people where we're asking them to spread the virus. Technically, I was like, I went backstage, poured a drink. I was like, they're going to cancel these shows soon. And sure enough, next week, fucking pulled the plug.
Now, here's the weird thing, because we don't know where this is going to end. People like us, all we've ever tried to do is collect people our whole life. Oh, we're going to be here. Come see us. We're going to be doing this. Come see us. It's so strange now to think that's the exact opposite of what the future is going to be like.
Yeah, and especially, like, I hope it's crazy because I know for a fact I'm ready to get out with people. Like, I'm ready for the football season to start. I want to be in crowds. I want to stand next to strangers and say hi. Like, I'm craving, like, I went, like I said, I went and did Rogan's podcast, and something, and not everyone may know, but Joe is like a big time hugger. Like if you see Joe and he's your friend, he grabs you and puts you in a jujitsu hug, like, "What's up, brother?" And it's the best. And to go to his compound and him stay at like 8 feet from you and be like, "Good to see you, man." It seems like he's pissed at you. So I feel like I have that level with everyone. Like you walk into a store. I had to go to Rite Aid the other day, and as you go to get in line for the pharmacy, people are literally 6 feet from you. Like, so it seems rude, but you're like, oh, this is just the new normal. So it's fucking bizarre.
And you're never going to feel comfortable with that. You know what I mean? Because you've spent so many years the other way. Like young people are going to grow up thinking that way, but it's always going to seem bizarre to you.
Yeah, first kisses. My daughter hasn't had her first kiss yet. And I imagine, I was thinking about it last night, I wonder what that's going to feel like, because it's going to be, she's 15, so it's going to be post-pandemic, right? But it should be within the next year, so it'll still be, social distancing will still be a thing, but she'll be around people, and then a boy will come in, and I bet, like, our first kisses were amazing, but I bet hers is going to be like, oh, fuck, he's willing to get infected. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, I got to tell you, I mean, when it comes to that, I raw dogged it all through the fucking AIDS era. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I feel like I'll be okay. So
I swear to God, Ron, the reason that the Gen X generation is fine is because we were terrified of AIDS, and we are comfortable with losing liberties to just get the government okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really thinking, like, when they get the testing going, you're probably going to have to get a test before you go into a mall, before you go on an airplane. Like, there was no way my father felt like he could be stopped at the airport. You know what I mean? But we adapted to it. We were like, yeah, okay. And now you're going to feel like, really? You want to fucking, take a blood test before I get on a plane? I think we're going to be heading in that direction.
Oh, yeah. I went into iHeartRadio right when everything's starting to go off. They've just canceled shows. My special, Hey Big Boy, streaming right now on Netflix, was about to air. It's Monday morning, and I got there, and this dude had a thermometer, was taking my, like one of those infrared thermometers, and he's like, I need to take your temperature. And it felt like a girl. It felt like, and thankfully I've never had this happen, but a girl who's like, hey, I love you, I want to have sex with you, but we both need to get full-blown AIDS tests before that happens. And you'd be like, I think I'd just rather not date you. Like, I literally almost pulled out of doing press going like, you know what, I don't want my temperature taken. That feels, like, invasive.
Right. And then, like, to your kids, they're going to be like, yeah, it's just something that happens when you leave the house. Somebody wants to take your temperature, Yeah.
It's amazing that this is going to be the DNA thumbprint on my children on how they will see the world for the rest of their lives. Like, they'll never know, like, it goes back to that thing of, like, when I was a kid, but they'll never know. Like, when I was a kid, there was no cell phones, there was no terrorists, there was no pandemic. It was just, we hate Russians. That's how it works. We know our enemy. You can talk trash about them and then go out and ride your bike. Like, it was really innocent now when you look back at my childhood. Yours too.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, you grew up in the age of Red Dawn, so you're just like, nah, maybe we'll fight the Russians. Who fucking knows, But I think we'll beat them. And yeah, that was, you were that Reagan era. You know what I mean? Where you were like, fucking USA. Now it's like a global thing. We're really realizing we're way more connected.
Yeah, it was nice. I one time said, I don't know if I said this or maybe I read it. Who fucking knows? But it was nice to know who your enemy was, like, as opposed to it's just the air now. And then, or in 9/11 when you're like, well, we know who our enemy is, but we can't say it out loud because they also live here too. And so we don't want to like we know what they look like, but we can't say that that's what they look like. You know what I mean? It was nice when I was a kid. You were like, no, it's Russians. It's anyone with a flat black haircut that's wearing leather shoes with wood bottoms, that doesn't wipe their ass.
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing. One thing that they taught us when we were kids, is that Russian women were the ugliest women that ever lived. They were all, and in the movies, they were all like big brutes, very butch. And then we find it out when they start to come to the titty bars. We're like, wait, these are the hottest chicks on the whole fucking planet. But we didn't know that throughout the whole Cold War. We fucking believed them.
It was women with a mole on their chin who were like
disgusting.
Carrying pails of milk with mud boots up to their knees.
We were so
and
dumb.
Then I remember the first strip club I went to Russia. I remember when I went to Russia, and by the way, I went to Russia in '95. So you still didn't know Russians yet, in my opinion. Like they weren't like coming over in droves. I went to Russia, and I was like, oh my God, they just are chicks. Russians were like chicks that had been stuck in a time capsule because their fashion was so fucked up. Their makeup was so fucked up. They were still crimping their hair, but they were hot as fuck.
Yeah, they're unbelievably hot. Now, you brought up 9/11. If you would have ever told me that I would be in a time in New York that was even sadder than 9/11, I would think that you were crazy. But today we just passed the number of people that were killed in New York at 9/11 that have been killed by the coronavirus. And you would not believe the streets here. I mean, fucking every street is empty. In New York City, dude, no one is out. It's crazy, Bert.
I saw Lynn Koplitz that was walking her dog today, and she was like, it was barren. It looked like a ghost town. I saw a video of a woman playing tennis against the wall of a building on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's what's crazy though is New York has a resiliency to it, where like in a weird way you guys bond together and become stronger. LA doesn't have that in the fucking slightest.
Is that right?
No, LA is every man for himself. Like in a heartbeat, LA will turn on themselves quicker than anything. I just feel like it's like traffic is empty right now, but there's still people going 100 miles an hour going, fuck you, asshole. Like I feel like there's no community in LA sometimes.
I mean, the whole thing is bizarre, isn't it? There's still some states that aren't locking down. There's some states that are locking down completely. Florida's a fucking madhouse in certain places, and other places it seems to be okay. No one knows where this is going. I say we do this. The only way out of this is a vaccine. We put up $1 trillion fucking deal. Who can ever come up? All the countries in the world pitch in. We'll pay you a fucking $1 trillion if your vaccine works, and then we'll be out of this thing.
Bro, I'll get a bunch of what's the pill they give kids that can't concentrate?
ADD shit. Yeah.
I'll just be snorting coke all night long, reading vaccine magazines. I would love to come up with a vaccine. I fantasize sometimes that I'll come up with a vaccine that like a magical vaccine. Like I'll notice the trend of why certain people don't get too sick. I'll be like, oh, no. It's people that sing the N-word in songs when they hear it. They don't get sick from the virus. And everyone's like, that's all we got to do? And you're like, yeah. At first I was like, what if it was like guys that had gotten chlamydia in college were immune to it? And I was like, oh, thank God.
That would be unbelievable if we just had that. Like at the end of War of the Worlds, we find out, water. That's all you fucking have to do is throw some water on these pricks. And you'll win.
That's it.
It's going to be something simple like that.
It's going to be,
It's fucking crazy days that we live in. I'm just saying that. And you know it. Maybe the fact that you're safe and good is because you don't wear your shirt when you go out. Maybe it's shirts that do this. We don't know yet.
I'm a honeypot for disease, Ron. If anyone's built up their immune system, it is the guy that has been touring around the country, around the world, telling people to go party with them at a bar shirtless. I had a guy at Tacoma one time come up, put his arm around me. She's like, can I take my shirt off? I was like, yeah, of course. Both our shirts are off. We're taking a picture, and I'm like, wow, you're pretty warm. He's like, I got a pretty bad fever right now. I was like, oh, cool.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Hey, when do you think you'll be back on the road? When's it going to happen?
It says June. That's what my managers and agents say, June. I have new tour dates starting in like August, late August, that are like a brand new tour that I haven't announced yet. I was supposed to announce, but June is when I'm supposed to do makeup dates. So hopefully, who knows, but hopefully we'll be able to do those makeup dates.
Bert Kreischer, I love you, buddy, and I'm glad that you're okay right now. Follow Bert on Twitter and Instagram, Bert Kreischer. But hey, big boy, hilarious. It's available on Netflix. And Bert's podcast, Bertcast, Two Bears, One Cave, is also out there. And what's the one that you're doing with? You got one more with Burr?
Yeah, me and Burr do a podcast called Bill Burt, and I'll tell you, man, it's a blast too. We're doing it via Zoom. Tom and I are doing ours in person, but we stay at distance, and so we're following all the CDC guidelines, and then Bill Burt or Bertcast. And
anything planned for you and Adam Sandler going out and maybe doing a tour together?
I knew I wasn't going to escape that. I screwed the pooch so bad.
It's so fucking great. I was telling people, like, Bert doesn't even realize he's a giant comedy star, and he's still, you know what I mean? He still felt like a freshman around the seniors' first day of school. It was adorable, buddy.
Ron, I got in the car. I thought I killed it. I really thought I killed it. I didn't know that I fucked it up. I got in the car and Mike Gibbons called me, who was a producer of it, and he was like, that was fucking hilarious. I go, really? I didn't know if it was funny. And he was like, are you kidding me? He's like, you asked Adam Sandler if he had Netflix. And I was like, yeah, right? And he was like, Bertie, it's a $200 million deal at Netflix. Like, he definitely has fucking Netflix. I go, oh, yeah, that was off. He goes, that was off. He goes, you called it Happy Madison, and you called his new movie Precious Gems. And I was like, I go, wow, I really fucked up. He was like, really fucked up? He goes, you couldn't stop fucking up.
That's classic. Bert Kreischer, talk to you soon, my friend. Love you. Take care of yourself.
I love you, Ronnie. Tell Gail I said hi and stay safe.
Okay, we'll do. Bert Kreischer, you can't get sweeter than that, man. That is so funny the way that shit went down with Sandler. And the bonfire busted on him on that night. I didn't even say it at first, but I was watching the bonfire, and they were just so happy that Bert had all these uncomfortable moments with Adam Sandler. Gail, are you back? I know that you were trying to put Juju down.
I am back. She was
she
asleep
sleeping?
in my arms, but I had turned my mic down because she was like fussy at first, but now she's asleep.
Here's the thing. Gurian couldn't put her to sleep, but fucking Bert Kreischer did? I don't get where this kid's humor is at.
She has a certain taste.
He sent you regards, Bert did.
I heard that. That was very sweet.
That Sandler thing is the funniest thing in the whole world,
It
isn't
was
it?
so funny.
Dude,
And then,
I don't know what...
Even
I
the
don't
look
know
on
what
his
you're-
face when he's like, we're watching, tonight we're going to watch Precious Gems. And you could just see like that was like the fourth or fifth thing that he had said wrong. And Sandler's face is just like, yeah. Like he's not going to correct him. He's just like, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And then he was like, he goes, maybe we can do... No, that's not going to happen. And then he asked him a question, and Sandler like, that's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. I have no idea that during that whole thing there was some kind of text thread going on here. Is it anything I need to be reading?
No.
Okay,
It's just
good.
a plug.
Oh, okay. Did I miss a plug I was supposed to be doing?
No, it's for one in the future.
Oh, okay.
Future plug.
It's so weird when we're not all together and, you try to figure out how to communicate when all this stuff is going down. But I think we're doing it in our own way. You know what I mean?
We're making it work.
I'm saying this. I never expected to be doing a show like this in my life. And I would feel crazy if we weren't doing the show every day. I don't know how I would be able to just spend the days like Saturday and Sunday. Like I'm literally trying to think, can I get a weekend show somewhere? Is there someone who's looking for a weekend show? I'm ready to start spinning fucking records. I'm ready to go on that 80s channel, And they always have those like little facts like Gotcha Goo first got here in 1984. I'm like, yeah, you brought that up yesterday. Bum, bum. And then I think I just went on that text thing. I just went on like a voice thing. And I was just, I looked down and there was like 14 paragraphs that I almost sent out to everybody. It would just be me doing the show. How does that happen? Like, I don't have any of those fucking voice activated things. And yet I guess I could do voice text, but I just don't know how to turn it on.
Yeah, sometimes Siri just takes down what you're saying. She just takes dictation without
But I
you
fucking
asking
took
for it.
Siri off my shit after they started saying that it listens to you masturbate. I saw a really sad thing too, that there was a woman who was dying of corona that they said she called one of those things like Siri help me, or one of them. I don't know if it was Siri or fucking Alexis or I think there's one called PD Joe that is well,
That's
he's
the one
kind
I
of
have.
he's a little salty, if you know what I mean. Like you're saying, like, PD Joe, can you get this? And he'll go like, what the fuck? What was the thing that you said the baby, little Juju, did with your phone?
I can't remember. What was that?
She went over and hit the phone like she was trying to talk to Alexa to play something for her.
Oh, yeah. It was really strange because we didn't even show her this. But you know how on like the older iPad, like they have like the middle button where you press it to talk to Siri? So she
Yeah.
walked over to my iPad and pressed it, and it made the sound like Siri's listening. And then she just said, Elshash, let it go. Like she knew to say who sings the song and title of the song. So she was trying to say, Elsa, let it go. Like, I want to hear Let It Go by Elsa. But it really freaked me out because I'm like, it's not like I say Elsa. Like, I wouldn't say to Alexa, Elsa. But she knew that there was some sort of, you got to give who sings it the title.
But here's the thing, I
weirded me out.
I can't figure out if she's like really smart or really dumb, because you got to know that you can't go by that. You got to say the movie.
Yeah.
But it's adorable. And today we were doing FaceTime, and I just put this stuffed animal that we keep over here, just put it up like it was looking in the FaceTime in the middle of it. She just goes like this, Dookie. And I'm like, how the fuck can she remember that we named this stupid unicorn? It's got a thing that comes out of his ass, so we call it Dookie with her. But then how would she you know how long it's been since she
It's been a long
swung
time
by
since
here?
She's a very long
Seen
time
Dookie.
since she's seen Dookie.
And then, I
Dookie
still
loves
have
pop-up.
I still have. I know, that's what I made her say. And then she was like really into it. It's weird because I still have like these children's books sitting here and stuffed animals sitting here and like reachable for her, and I'm like, when is she ever coming back over?
I know. It's
Probably
so
fucking
sad.
drive here herself before she sees me. And then I was talking with my mom today. It's the same thing. I can't go see my mom.
I know. It's really, really hard. Sometimes I have that where I just think, like, when am I going to see my family again? When am I actually going to be able to give my mom a hug?
Well, on Zoom. I'm trying to invent this Zoom hug thing. Gail, everybody fucking digs the Pearl Man, right? He's on
Yeah.
hold.
Everyone
right
wants
now.
to book the Pearl.
Everybody wants to book the Pearl. Dan, I'm just saying this. You got to follow Bert Kreischer, so crush it. You know what I mean? I mean, he was hysterical. You got to bring your... This is the thing I love about Dan Perlman. He's doing observational comedy. And that's, that when as soon as he says, did you ever notice? I'm like, I have noticed that. It's crazy. Dan, how you holding up?
I'm okay, man. I don't know. Just trying to stay sane, It
is hard.
Yeah, I took a walk. I walked to Randall's Island the other day.
From where?
Huh?
How? From where? You got to go over bridges to get to Randall's Island.
Yeah, I went over a bridge, yeah. I walked and sat on the grass there. That was really the big adventure of the last couple days.
Did you go to Warp Tour?
What is that?
That's what they used to have the Warp Tour on Randall's Island. That was my only knowledge of Randall's Island. They used to
My
hold the
main
Warp
knowledge of it is I used to play like Little League baseball there, and Big Daddy. There's a scene in the Adam Sandler movie Big Daddy where he teaches the kid to pee outside, and he pees like underneath the bridge there.
And then my friends and I would play Little League. We'd go piss on that bridge because we'd be like, that's where Adam Sandler pissed in Big Daddy. And it was just nice to be like a part of history.
There's a weird thing when you're driving towards Randall's Island, and if you make like this wrong turn, you're suddenly in Bonfire of the Vanities. And I'm like, it's the scariest fucking warehouse meets, fucking zombie people thing. And we were just flying through there at like 110 miles an hour. And I definitely thought, I'm going to hit somebody and keep going and end up in Bonfire of the Vanities.
There was I remember when I was a kid, there was like a naked statue there. And then somebody, I love like when every few years there'd be like a statue prank. And then one time we were driving, and I guess someone had put these like polka dot boxers over the naked statue. And then they like, I guess that was considered vandalism, so then they took it off, and then it was naked again the next time. But it was just a very brief vandalism where they just covered him up for maybe a day.
Dude, this should be in your new stand-up. What's the deal with these naked statues,
Yeah.
Just once I'd like to see, just do that thing. Just once I'd like to see.
There's less, I'm just running out of observation just being in the same room,
Dude, are you writing material while this is happening, or does it makes zero sense to write material right now?
I feel like it makes no sense. Like, I don't, like, you can't really test it. Maybe you test it on these, like, if you do these, like, Instagram things, it's like you're just getting those, like, those cry laugh things. There's just no way to gauge it. And so you just feel insane.
Well, that's one of the best ones you can get. You know what I mean?
It is.
The best ones you can
Especially
get.
if it looks like it's rolling away. I mean, then you know you've really hit it.
Yeah, there's no better feeling as a, as a stand-up when you get the tilted head emoji,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The rush, just the rush from a live emoji,
Well, I was able to check up with you today because I was reading you are on Cashmere's column, Social Distancing Dispatches.
Yeah.
And you were his big guest this week. So that's up on the iBang.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to, we talked about what meals I've been having, which has just been anarchy, I guess.
Yeah.
We talked about the Zoom birthday party I went to. Have you been to any of those yet?
I've Zoomed, but not in such a formal setting as a birthday party.
And then, Gail, what's the thing that you had us on with? We had a family party and we had to play games.
Yeah, that was my brother's idea. We all did House Party, which is like Zoom, but it has built-in games.
Oh, that's fun.
It wasn't.
You lie. It was fun.
I mean, it was fun.
The thing that's weird with a Zoom party thing, it's like you can't have a side conversation. So there's like 12 people in there, and so everything you say is like a speech. Everything you say is like you're making a toast or something. There's no peeling off and like just saying something to one person,
That's a good point, because I often take that role in a social setting where I'll be in a group, but really I'm only talking to one or two people.
Right.
Yeah.
You talk to the people who you're talking to anyway. But here, everything is an announcement.
Dan, great observation. Get that down. I mean, you're doing a lot of Zoom observations.
We're resorting to Zoom observations.
You're like, Zoom? More like Doom. Am I right, folks? I mean, what the fuck?
And there are no folks. I say, am I right, folks?
Yeah.
The empty chair.
The other really sad thing is like crowd working. You're going to be like, what do you do for a living? And everyone's going to be like, nothing right now, but I've been looking. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to get back out there.
Oh, man, that's going to be brutal. I hadn't even thought about that. It's every single, like, what do you do for a living? It's like, no, I was one of the, 25 million who's unemployed. Every day I try to call and get through the unemployment office.
Unbelievable.
You guys dating? You just have to pivot.
Yeah, no, we can't. We're afraid. We're too afraid. Do you think fucking the Tinder stock is going down like there's no tomorrow? Dan, another great observation,
There's not. I saw the Fauci thing. He said that he would stop handshaking forever, which I guess I think I could handle that, maybe.
Yeah, I never liked it to begin with, and
I think we need to come up with something better.
I'm going to tell you you guys something now. It's your generation that came up with the bro hugs. None of my friends. I mean, we had to be so drunk before we hugged, and
We
now
love to embrace.
yeah, you meet someone and they hug you, and this has been going on for like maybe the last 5-6 years. And I would say after I go, I didn't know that we were that close, to fucking hug.
Right. So now I guess it has to be replaced with like words. Are we gonna have to go to words?
I think this is me. I think we should go with a tip of the hat, and if you're not wearing a hat, you mime a tip of the hat.
Oh, I do like that. Like a little spin, a little flourish.
Mm-hmm.
That does sound fun.
I don't mind using a real hat, but I don't like the miming thing. No, I mean, why don't we just act like we're stuck in a box? Let's just go that fucking far with it. We're looking at our non-existent watches.
I chose it because I felt like the bow and the curtsy is too gendered in these times. You know what I mean?
Yes, we're too fluid.
So I thought the tip of the hat, everyone could do that.
Everybody tips a hat, yes. Of all ages, all creeds.
Mm-hmm.
There for a while we were thinking it would be safer just to kick feet. Remember when that went around? That was going to be the thing, and
the Wuhan
now,
shake, they called it.
Yeah,
or the elbow tap.
Yeah, the elbow. I wouldn't mind bringing back the bump. I know you guys aren't as big into disco as I am, but a nice bump, a couple
Like
asses up
bumping
against
hips,
each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that might
The problem
be fun.
with
yeah.
the elbow is, and because we really only got to enjoy it for about a week or two until we just fully weren't allowed to be around people. But while we were doing it, I noticed you actually get very close to the other person's face. With a high five, a handshake, it's extended far away from you. But it's very intimate to get close enough to touch elbows and like look eye to eye with one another. I think it's out completely. I don't think the elbow is a good idea.
It feels weird. Even if it's like sanitary, there's just something about it that feels like worse than the disease,
It's you can feel the warmth of the breath, and to me that's worse.
Oh.
Yeah, that's no good.
Hey, this is an idea, and you know what? I mean, you guys know how to code. I mean, you grew up coding, so you could work this whole thing out. I'll just be big picture guy. But what about a dating app, right? A dating app that is just for mutual masturbation. 6 feet away. You're 6 feet away, and you just sit masturbating, looking at each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably mostly what it is. I think people are doing the FaceTime dates now, and that's really all you have to go on.
It seems like it'd be easy for it to progress very quickly, even more so than if you were on a regular date and you're like, oh, should we go home together? It just seems like you have about 5 minutes of a Zoom conversation till you're like, I guess we should masturbate, because what else are we going to do?
Yeah.
What are we going to keep talking? Have you come up with like ways to, because there's no real reason, like we don't have to do as much. Have you come up with like reasons of like, oh, I got to go? Have you come up with like a go-to thing to get off
that's
like
a good
call
point.
or something?
You don't really have that anymore.
Mine has been like, I got to go charge up, which doesn't really mean anything, but it kind of sounds like it
that's
does.
good.
I like that. Even though they go, oh, you can still talk while you're charging. No,
You're like, but I got to
haven't.
go charge
And then I have to stand in the same place. I like to pace.
Yeah.
I mean, that actually is the problem for me. Once it's charge time, it's go time. I can't just be tethered to the wall. I hate that.
Gail, you told me something horrifying that people now, like your phone will just ring for a FaceTime without warning you first.
Yeah.
I first saw, I think it was actually Kashmir who put it up on his Instagram stories that he's like, this isn't okay. I don't know why you guys think this is suddenly okay. And then I started to notice more and more. I had friends who would just ring me FaceTime without a text to say, hey, are you cool to FaceTime now, or do you want to do this later? That's not, we can't live in this world.
No, and you really just have to like, I'm just tired of seeing, the whole benefit of seeing somebody in person, you look at their face and you don't have to also see your face. But then with FaceTime, your face is there also, and you have to kind of like look at you have to see yourself also. And I don't want
that is true.
Enough of that.
You have
great-
to be comfortable.
Dan, great observation. We're putting together your Zoom special, and this is fucking fantastic. I'm loving every premise is just like today. You know what I mean? It's fresh.
Topical.
Yeah. They're doing FaceTime pitches now, the networks, that instead of going there and sitting down with them so you could read the room a little bit, you're sitting and just doing a FaceTime. And you're like, well, I think it's going to be a fun show for everybody. It's like Modern Family meets the death camp.
It's kind
And then
of
you're just like, did you guys laugh or was that a cough? I can't tell.
There's going to be so many. I just keep thinking about how many like quarantine shows and movies there are going to be, and how bad most of them will be.
I think
that
somebody's
there's gonna
shooting
be-
one. Someone's shooting one right now. Trust me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone had a funny post. It was like Sundance 2021, and it was like interviewer. It's like it's almost like coronavirus is like a character in the movie, and they're just like, yeah, it's like
Right,
it's kind of like
exactly.
Tom, Sally, and coronavirus. You know?
I want to do a game show, and it's the old like To Tell the Truth show, but it's just called Who's Got COVID. And 3 contestants come out. They're sitting 6 feet apart from each other. And each one of them says they have the disease. And we have to ask enough questions so that we can all, at the end of it, decide who we think has it. And then we'll come out, we'll take the temperature, and whoever's the hottest, that
And
we
then
ring
what-
a bell and it's fun.
And then, but the questions have to be mostly like smell based, right?
Yes.
Good point.
Yes. Good observation. What we could be doing, like here, shut your eyes. What do you smell right now? Lavender? Oh, no. I just had a turd up to your face. I know it's you. Hey, did
And
either
then-
of you guys see Millionaire last night? The Return
did
of
watch
Millionaire? It was so depressing. So Jimmy's there. Regis is too sick to come out and do the show now. So Jimmy's there. You hear the crowd clapping as they're bringing out this celebrity guest, but you're noticing there is no crowd. They're literally just playing crowd noises because they can't pull a crowd in. It's so sad.
That's what someone told me. I didn't see it, but that's what someone told me Bill Maher did for his monologue in his backyard, was just play sort of like iMovie, just sound effects of a laugh track.
Oh, Bill. Bill. How about you go, I'm not going to do the monologue tonight. It's stupid because there's no crowd here.
It's just, maybe I don't need these long pregnant pauses when it's literally daytime in my backyard.
Why I bounce on the balls of my feet because I saw Carson do it 40 years ago.
Or I lean into nothing.
Lean into it, yeah. And then look over, ask Doc if he's been smoking some of the wacky tobacco.
That's interesting. That's a good observation. I never thought of the lean into nothing. I think about the balls on the feet, but there is a lean that is happening that's unnatural.
Yes, it's really selling the trash,
I'm going to do a live remote from Randall's Island this weekend, Dan, if you can stop by.
I would love that. Let's do that.
Come out and see us from the bridge. You guys get on the bridge and we'll wave to you from the island. And anyone tries to get any closer, we'll start shooting them.
It's very dusty there.
Yeah.
That would be really fun.
Well, remember how the Japanese were doing that thing where they would just have the fake rock star going around and people would go to see it? And the way we're going to have to do it now, what do they call that 3D thing that...
the hologram?
Yeah, the hologram.
Like
But now what we need is a hologram audience. The fucking rock star can show up, but you can't have an actual living audience there.
This is what I was saying to my friend about like even when they start producing stuff again, like the idea of extras, like maybe extras are gone. They'll just have to put like skeletons or like dummies or something. Like you're in a restaurant scene, it'll just be like
scarecrows.
It'll be like an off-Broadway play where it's just a table in a black backdrop, and we're all supposed to pretend they're in Paris.
I like this, actually.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool. Because you know what? You
we're-
can't hide the writing then.
No.
Yes, you're right.
We're creating the future by going backwards. Dan, we got a break. I love hearing from you, though, brother. Please stay safe. I hate to say that to every
Love
guest,
you,
but
Dan.
please, I can't. I don't want to lose Dan. All right, talk to you later. Gail, let's take a little break here. We'll be right back. It's the Bennington Show.
Faction Talk 103. It's the Bennington Show. Faction Talk 103. It's the Bennington Show.
It's the Bennington Show. Gail, you back with us, or you got the baby?
I'm back.
Okay, couldn't tell. I can never tell when you're not the one who jumps in. I'm like, I don't know whether she's there or not. It's quarantine radio. Yeah, social distancing the whole time. Doing just doing it. This is the new normal, as they say. Boy, I'm going to talk about our next guest we got here today. You remember the first time that we saw the goddamn Comedy Jam up in Montreal. It was like one of the great fun nights that we ever had out because we just saw real pure rock and roll along with, some comedians that love these songs and got to do it in a real rock and roll environment. Josh Adam Myers, of course, the lead singer of that, but also a terrific comedian, and now has a podcast. I guess it started well over a year ago, which is such a brilliant idea, Gail. I've always been trying to figure out how did I not come up with this idea, and B, how wrong would it be just to outright steal it? Because I find this to be so much fun, just going through the Rolling Stone magazine's top 500, having a different guest, and every week is another album from the list from 500 all the way up. And it's a brilliant idea, and it's so much fun. Josh puts a lot of work into this as far as goes. Listen to some albums that that he may love, but then you look at from a new way, or maybe an album that he was never into, and you have to kind of turn around and look at it and see if you like it for what it is. It's just brilliant, and you can listen to this wherever you get your. I think it's Spotify is what it's available. It's called The 500, and this week, Cheap Trick live at Budokan. Let's talk to Josh Adam Myers. Josh.
Hey, Josh.
What's up, buddy? Hi. I was like smiling as you were talking about the first time you saw the goddamn Comedy Jam, because I remember the exact moment. We were in the church. Remember? We were in the church
right.
where they put us like the most un-rock and roll style, and that was when Big J did, oh my God, what is that song?
No, not Baker Street, but it's something like that.
Baker Street. No, it was Baker
that's
Street.
it. That is
it. He had a dream
Baker
about
Street.
buying some land. Yeah.
But that was still like one of my favorite moments, because I just always remember you guys were up in the upper pew, and I remember just looking at like the four of you, and you guys were going like ape shit.
Yeah, we were loving it, man.
And it's such a fun song, too. So, yeah.
But everybody
right
was
now,
great that night.
Oh, yeah. I've gotten so busy with the podcast that I haven't really done the jam that often here in Los Angeles. Like, we're still doing it on the road for, like, festivals. Like, we'll always do Moon Tower, Skank Fest, et cetera, et cetera. But we were getting ready to do one out here, and then, of course, everything happened, and we've had to put the kibosh on it for now. I'm telling you, the second, like, we have the go-ahead, and we can start getting together in groups of, like, 200 people again or 300 people, like, we're going to put on the biggest jam ever. Like, we'll get all the people that we weren't ever able to get because they're just going to want to get out of the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, dude, you're going to be able to book, like Bernie Mac? Bernie Mac came back to life.
How is your quarantine? Are you with somebody? Are you on your own? What are you doing for quarantine?
So I have a dog, and like, me and the dog basically just do everything together. So I'm actually fine. Like, I live in, a nice, fairly big one-bedroom apartment in the Hollywood Hills under the Hollywood sign. And it's just, I'm so grateful that I'm in the position that I'm in right now while all of this is going on. Like, I couldn't imagine being like a struggling comedian or being in like a, your relationship's a little off with your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it is. It's like, this has been fantastic. Like, the first 2 weeks were a little rough because you just don't know what's going on. Everybody's giving you this information like it's going to be martial law, and you're freaking out and you're going to the grocery store. But after those 2 weeks, I kind of settled into a groove where it's like, all right, I wake up the same time, I eat the same time, meditate, then I work out every day at noon for an hour, then I come in, then I work, and then I do this. So by like 8, 9 o'clock, like, that's the time I have to, like, sit on the couch and watch television, and then I pass out. I have a couple neighbors I see, but for the most part, it's just a lot of FaceTiming, a lot of podcasting. Like, this has been great.
Yeah.
I did the bonfire. I did the bonfire yesterday, and that was, like, the most fun I've had in, since this whole quarantine started. So I think it's weird. Like, I'm an extroverted introvert. So I like being around people, but then I also like being by myself. And I feel like I run at my highest capabilities when I'm by myself because I just can focus and I'm not thinking about it. So the quarantine is nothing different for me except for the going out and doing stand-up. Like, that's the only thing, you know what I mean? And going to like a group setting gym. For the most part, it's been fine. I'm not, and I think you'll get this as somebody that's either worked a 12-step program or read a self-help book. Like, I think you really have to take this whole situation one day at a time. Literally, Absolutely. Just look at this day and go, today's great. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to do this, and not think about like 3 months down the road when that shit that you had coming up was going to be canceled or not.
Yeah, I know. I just got this thing sent to me that, I forgot we were supposed to do a Creeps with Kids show. I think it was tomorrow night. And those things will pop up from time to time. And I'm like, oh, shit, that would have been so much fucking fun. And then last night I let myself get into, like, worrying about the whole world pandemic and the economic thing. You know what I mean? It's all too big for you to take in. You just got to keep it small and figure out what you could do. And that is like a 12-step thing. There's no doubt about it. You can only control what you can control. What are you doing to stay creative, though?
Well, luckily, dude, I'm so blessed to have the 500 and to be working with a company like Spotify that is great. So Spotify is basically, they understand, just much like every other radio show or anything in the world, they understand that we don't want to get the guests in the same room together. So we're doing a lot of stuff remotely. So I'm working ahead on the podcast, but I'm also getting guests that I normally probably wouldn't have gotten for certain albums. Like we just did, like you said, Cheap Trick live at Budokan. We did with Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses, which was fantastic. And then this week I'm prepping to do Tommy Chong is doing Graham Parsons.
Oh, that's
which is gonna be
really
great.
fucking cool. Yeah. I'm sure Tommy
Yeah,
knew him,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So I'm. What's funny is like literally as soon as I'm done talking to you, I have to like sit down and really dive into the Graham record. Like I've been listening to it, and I got to figure out the connections between them. But my writer, when we found out that we had Tommy Cho, my writer was like, he's like, dude, you need to call me. We need to talk about the Flying Burrito Brothers. I need to school you on this. I'm like, all right, dude, all right, don't worry, I've got time. Like all I have is time. So researching these things have been a cinch. I also, to stay creative, have been, because I was prepping to do a one-man show about the car accident I was in and like the drug use and all these different other times I almost died. I was working on that to do at this year's Edinburgh, but considering that probably won't happen, you know, I'm just going to keep focusing on that. It's like I have all these different ideas that I'm slowly like pulling out because I'm starting to get more into directing. And so I'm working with this other writer, a friend of mine. We've been going over this idea that I've had. And the cool thing is, I think, Ron, is that there are days that I really want to dig into stuff and I want to be creative and I want to just like, oh, finally I have the time to work on this project. But on other days, I just want to say fuck it and do nothing, and that's fine too. Do you know what I mean? That's what's great about this whole thing is just accomplish, like literally, just like if you're like, all right, I just want to work for an hour today. If you get that done, you are doing fantastic. So
Well, the other thing that you have too, man, with your podcast is, and people don't realize this, but research can be so much fun. Everyone thinks a podcast, well, hey, we'll just start talking, whatever. But when you specialize where you're going with something, you know what I mean? It can be a blast. And I told you right from Jump Street, I was so fucking jealous of this idea. And it's such a cool show. And it's such a step outside of yourself show, you know?
This project is honestly, I think, what has been keeping me in a good mood during the pandemic. You know, I'm always, one, it's not just the fact that like this generates income and this keeps me in my apartment and it keeps me living and keeps me eating. That's great. But it's just the music. I mean, you know it as somebody that really appreciates music, and music is such a huge part of your life. Like I have never once in the last few weeks gotten depressed because anytime I start feeling I'm going negative, I put my headphones on and I go on like a walk with the dog and I put some music on that I got to dig into, and it just cheers me up. Yeah. Like whether it's I'm doing, it's funny too because I'm getting ready to do the two albums I'm digging into right now are Grievous Angel by Graham Parsons and Bruce Springsteen, The Rising. And I know you'll know this as a New Yorker, that The Rising, it's a 9/11 record. It's very comparable themes to what we're dealing with right now.
Sure.
So it's like the album is like, I was supposed to record it with Greg Fitzsimmons on Monday, and I started listening to it, and I was just like, I hit up Greg. I was like, dude, can we do it like 3 or 4 days after that? Like, I really need time to dig into this record and like really pick it apart. So
absolutely,
so it's great, man. It's great. Music has definitely put me in a good spirit, and this podcast, man, it's the gift that just keeps on giving. Because I've said it a million times. If you would have told me when I was 13 years old I would make a living just listening to music and talking about it with cool people, I'd have like a boner from that point in my life until it actually happened.
100%. And the one that you got up now, Cheap Trick at Budokan, is like one of the great rock and roll stories of all time. This fucking success just came out of nowhere. A band that deserved big success, but it took like a fucking bootleg record that they weren't even ready for to explode them. It's just such a great story.
I think it was Rick that said this, and I think it's the best way to sum up their experience with that album is that they flew coach to Budokan and first class on the way back to America.
Yeah.
Like it changed everything for them.
They
Which was really
literally
cool,
had
too,
no
and
idea they were big in Japan. Like now you would know because of the internet, but that literally started that, hey, they're big in Japan. Like that became an industry joke no matter who you were talking about,
Sure.
after that. And I think it was Spinal Tap even did a Budokan joke. But they went over there and there was thousands of fucking young girls waiting, screaming, and they had no idea anybody knew about them there.
You can hear it the second they introduced the band. Like, you can hear the shrieks of because I think the auditorium was like 12,000 screaming teenage Asian women. And it's like, once they announced Cheap Trick, I was listening to my headphones, it almost blew my ears out. And you can tell, like, I think that's kind of what's so cool about this record is that Cheap Trick had like minimal success getting ready to go to Japan. They go to Japan. I mean, it's just like, imagine having your ego filled, like, and you go on stage and people are going crazier than you've ever experienced. Of course, you're going to play into that, and you're going to, your solo is going to be even more intense, your stage presence.
Sure.
And you can feel all of that listening to that record. Dude, Matt Sorum said it perfectly, dude. He was like, when I first joined Guns N' Roses and we thought doing America was one thing, and then the second we got out of the country, just that's where the real fandom is. Why is that, by the way? Why do you think the fans are better everywhere around the world except for America?
Well, maybe it's because we expect it here, you know what I mean? Like maybe there's this weird American thing that, it's just the same way that we can get food at any fucking corner, and they can't. I'm sure you took a fucking cheeseburger to Kenya and people be flipping the fuck out about it, But there's this, do you ever see the AC/DC in Argentina? And it was only like a few years ago. So AC/DC comes out, and it's in one of the soccer stadiums there. And this fucking crowd, you don't see anybody holding up a phone, and it's, I don't know, 40,000, 50,000 people, and they're going fucking nuts and singing every song. You don't have to be an AC/DC fan to watch this and go, this is one of the greatest fucking things I've ever seen in my life, And here's the weird thing, too, about that Live in Budokan record. When the kids in America bought that record or heard the live stuff, they started to react the same way in America. They were almost doing an impression of the fucking album when when Cheap Trick was touring America. It was fucking great. It's a great story.
Yeah, it's funny how things in my life, like I've jammed with Rick Nielsen when we did the hour special of the goddamn Comedy Jam on Comedy Central. Natasha Leggero sang "Surrender," and I'm hanging out with Rick, and it's like it's one of those things where I'm glad Cheap Trick really came into my life now, and I'm able to like listen, because we did 2 Cheap Trick records already. We already did In Color, which was good, which was really good. But then you hear at Budokan and you're like, oh, now I get it. But, go back 4 years, I'm on stage with Rick Nielsen and be in awe of how great the guy can play, but not like, I'm not a true fan yet. And I'm almost glad it happened that way, because I probably fanboy out on him. Embarrass myself.
And Rick realizes it. I mean, he wrote those songs. But Robin Zander, it's one of the great fucking power pop voices of all time. And he hasn't lost it. It's still fucking there. It's an amazing, amazing rock and roll voice.
Yeah, I'm a true fan now.
Dude, it's so good to talk to you. Let's stay in touch, okay? And I'm glad you're doing great.
Please,
with this
I love you guys. I love you guys. Hopefully I'll make it out to New York by the end of the year, and when I do, we'll hang.
We'll have a great time. Take care, my friend. Make sure you check out this podcast. It's a blast, Gail.
I love that album so much, so I'm really excited to check out this episode.
It's the 500 podcast. You can hear it on Spotify. And how cool he's got Matt Sorum on there. And it's also really cool that people would think, okay, if you're in Guns N' Roses or Velvet Revolver, you're going to be into a harder rock thing. But weirdly, and I found this out from Eddie Trunk, all the hard rock guys and all the metal guys love Cheap Trick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's just like a really good balance of sound with them. Like, it is poppy, but there's like a lot of guts to it, and it's like, but it's very singable, but it's hard. Like, I mean, I love that band for that reason. I just like, to me, they're a crowd pleaser for that reason.
Oh, yeah. They're just great, and they're really, really cool. And that time they all, right before they did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they came in and hung out with us, and it was really one of my funnest times ever. And Xander was like, thanks to you guys for putting us over back when I was doing the Ron and Ron show, but he was crazy because they were a gigantic band long before I started doing radio, but those guys still love to hear their shit on the radio. She's just waking up now. Yeah. So it is the Bennington show. We're just hanging out with you every day, pulling this stuff together, finding out we may have a surprise guest that it just came up during the show, and I'm not really sure whether it's going down or not. Chris or Vito texts me to let me know. Everything is on the fly these days, and oddly enough, you know, having Juju running in the room and hearing from friends of ours and not being able to see each other, for some reason it's even more exciting radio. Isn't that the weirdest fucking thing about all this?
It really is. And like initially, I think back to that first week where like, how are we supposed to make this work, that we're supposed to do radio from our house, and what are we going to do about guests? And honestly, it really has been the coolest thing, checking in with our friends. And sometimes, you know, it's really funny. Or today we got to hear some really hard stories. It's like a mix of both.
Yeah.
You know, to hear like, and honestly, Josh saying like day by day, that's like, because it changes for each person. Someday you might feel really like, hey, we're doing the best we can and everybody's coming together. And other days, like, the darkness kind of gets you. But
Sure.
You can only just do what's ahead of you. And that's been really comforting. Even you saying, you know, doing things on the fly, it's kind of the way things have to operate. It feels weird to make something, a plan for something that's even a day away.
Yeah, you really can't. And also, when you get those feelings, you got to kind of acknowledge them and know that that's going to pass as well. Like, you're not going to stay as sad as you are. And I mean, we've got some really sick friends. I didn't know Frank in the Bronx was that sick that he was on a ventilator for 4 days. We talked to Jeffrey Gurian, who, you know, if anybody could have given into it, it's Jeffrey. You know, fit into all the age stuff and the fact that he had a major heart attack just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And he came through. You know what I mean? I know he didn't get the pillow he wanted, but other than that, he came through.
I thought that was the detail that really put it over for me. But honestly, yeah, I mean, hearing from Jeffrey and then hearing from Frank, you know, very lucky to have those guys and be able to talk to us and tell us those stories.
You know, the other thing that, and you hate to fucking be that person that tries to find the rose in the middle of all this shit, but the truth is, just hearing Bert Kreischer and he's okay, and hearing Josh Adam Meyer and he's okay, and you're like, oh, I fucking love you, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you literally figure out that these people that you've done some stuff with in the past, like, you love them more than you would have said on a regular day. And you know, after 9/11, we were all acting like that with each other in New York.
Yeah.
And people are like, you know what I miss? That connected feeling. We couldn't be more disconnected right now. We're not allowed to connect with each other. And yet that makes you weirdly feel more connected in a strange way. Like you just want to say to your friends, I fucking love you, you know? And I know for a fact I don't do that enough. Maybe there's something to the reboot. And I'm saying that, but if you would have caught me 4:30 this morning, when it all felt, just too much, it's not always good, It's not always good. That's one of the reasons why, I weirdly have come to admire Jenny Hutt for being able to put herself out there when she's in a scary mood. I'm never able to do that.
Yeah, she's very open with that. And then today she put a picture of her when she was like a junior in college, and I really enjoyed that as well. She's so cute.
She did? Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta go check it out. She's adorable.
Was she really big then?
No, she wasn't.
I like her really big pictures that she puts out.
I know.
I think
those are cute.
she put one out from 8 years ago or something, and that's when I first met her. And at the time, you don't think, oh, this is a really heavy person, but she was. I'm going to be honest with you. She was. Now I get it.
When this was long before I did this show with you, I was just in at SiriusXM, visiting you, and we bumped into her and her then co-host, and I remember how warm and sweet Jenny Hutt was, and how the opposite her co-host was, and I was like, well, that's a strange pairing.
Did you ever see them on the Today Show together?
I think you played it for me years ago. I know. It was
my
very
God.
cringy.
Fucking brutal. It's one of the most brutal things I ever saw. And and it was because Jenny lost weight. And that ruined the way that ruined the whole dynamic that her co-host felt like she had with her,
But yeah, when I met them, they could not have been acting more different from each other. It would it was ridiculous, and Jenny was so sweet, and being like, "This is her daughter."
Yeah, she's so nice. All right, I'm trying to get this update here, whether we get this guest or not, but who I guess called Roland, but it looks like they're doing a new episode of SNL this weekend. Weekend update and other content from SNL cast, no host. So they're not.
Yeah. Are they going to be Zooming content?
Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know whether any of that kind of TV has worked. It's one thing to do it on the radio, you know what I mean, because you're making up the way, it's theater of the imagination for the listener. But when you're watching this and you're seeing people, without makeup on, and they're just sitting in their house and all, it's a whole totally. I mean, it's weirdly shocking. As you're watching.
I've loved the drop off in makeup on for newscasters and talking heads. It's been pretty exciting to witness. Just kind of the quick thrown together look that they obviously are doing themselves or doing just with maybe one person.
Do you think? Do you like it with Cuomo with the virus?
Yeah, just in his basement.
Yeah, he's just in his basement. Nobody can get. I don't know whether they're using some kind of thing to lower food down to him in a piss bucket, but
it puts the lotion in the basket.
Yes, it's basically he's in a pit and he's got the dog and he's going to break its fucking paws unless they put him on CNN.
Come here, precious, you little shit.
I just feel like he should be getting some rest. I don't want to tell him how to, do his job, but maybe rest is what you need right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I mean, I think this is fine because it's not really SNL. And, to me, the Weekend Updates jokes are probably the best thing of the whole deal anyway. You can't get around that.
I feel like that's the thing we've certainly been missing these weeks. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of just want to hear Weekend Update jokes about things that have been going on.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I guess people can just mail them what's ever going on. Mail them their jokes and stuff like that. Those two guys, everybody thought they didn't have chemistry at first. Jost and Che. And man, they worked out a really fucking funny partnership.
I know.
I'm very fucking happy from those guys. I really like both of them a lot. I've always loved Che. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know if that show's right for him, because his stand-up was so unique to him. And, you're kind of forced into pretending you're a newscaster on that show or whatever. I think it's silly to this day. They still pretend it's a newscast. We get it. You're two comedians. But they made it work, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, I do remember that at first, like when they first started doing it. Like, it just kind of seemed like, I wonder why they picked these two guys to do it together. You know what I mean? And now it's totally the opposite. It's perfect.
Hey, Vito, what time do we have to tap out of the show today?
4:52.
Okay. So Roland has called us and see if we want to take this guest, and we said we could if they want to, but now we're kind of not sure or not. Also that Che lost his grandmother to the corona.
That's
which
right.
is, another weirdly bizarre thing. And then they also lost one of their musical guys. Oh, God, I can't think of his name right now. It's bugging the hell out of me. But those guys just loved him. He was one of the musical producers on the show. And everybody was crazy about him. I can't think of his name right now. I've always known his name. But
Hal Wilner.
Thank you very much, Vito.
Good job,
This is
Vito.
why you're the MVP. You're Captain Khalees. Honestly, all kidding aside, I can't believe the job that Vito is doing. And I'm always concerned about him every day. Any day that he's more quiet than another day, I'm like, is he okay? Is this getting to him? But all you ever tell us is that you're all right with this, Vito.
Thank you. It's been like, I'm really happy I'm in the spot where I can come in every day, and I'm just, happy to be doing it.
Yeah. And you also think that Chris is faking his mild corona?
I do, and I was even hoping that he would get a test and it would come back negative out of spite.
It's negative because he keeps saying it's 100 degrees every day, but I think he runs hot. I mean, he's a big guy.
Yeah. He has a hot bot.
Is that a thing that the kids are saying
hot bod
these days?
syndrome.
What are they saying that on TikTok? I got to get over there. I'm a dancer.
Yeah. You can cry and dance at the same time.
What's wrong with that? Why isn't that a thing? For me, anyway. It is the Bennington Show, and if you're just joining us right now, it's been a weirdly Corona show. We had two guests on back to back that literally were in the hospital and came back from Corona. Jeffrey Gurian, who we were all concerned about for a while, and a couple of people wrote in about only he would find a way of bragging about his hospital room being VIP. And and then, of course, Frank from the Bronx, who's one of our favorite callers of all time. And we didn't know that he had went to the hospital, went on the ventilator, in 4 days that he's lost. He can't even remember being on that ventilator. And, I mean, you hear that we're light on ventilators in New York City, and here's one that literally saved his life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's like just so lucky.
And I know other people have contacted me that they're dealing with this, but they're not, doing it publicly. So I don't mention their names, but I mean, we're starting to know a lot of people that are dealing with this. And then we talked to 2 LA guys who are acting like they're having the time of their lives.
It's true. Yeah.
Bert Kreischer feels like he's, for the first time ever, really getting his shit together. And Josh Adam Myers is like, this couldn't have come at a better time for me. I'm just feeling great about it. I'm meditating, I'm working out.
We have a guest on hold.
Who do we have right here?
We have Ron White.
Ron White, one of the greatest touring comedians that we have in this country. And Ron lost a guy this week that we all love, Vic Henley. And let's talk to Ron.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
You know what? I'm hanging in there. I've lost friends before, and Vic and I 35 years, and he opened probably a quarter of the shows I did in the last 10, and just somebody, how delightful it was. I mean, just a sweetest guy, and he was also one of the only people that make it look like I don't drink much. So I got to find somebody else.
Yeah, you're going to need somebody to fill. Those are big shoes to fill. But I will tell you this, and I mean, to turn around and to talk about Vic Henley, not only just such a funny guy, but also he had this insatiable curiosity about everything, and also a real lust for life. I mean, he was just a really unique, interesting, fun guy.
Yeah, and a near photographic memory, and that matters to me because my memory is no good. So when somebody like Vic, you lose them, you lose your memory.
Sure.
It always remind me of stories and all these things that have happened that I was either too drunk to remember or whatever was wrong. But I just don't recall. So Vic would be like, "Don't you remember last time we worked here? There was a hot dog place. You didn't want to go there, and we ended up going to." No, I don't remember one bit of it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, I will tell you this, Ron. Vic Henley loved you so much, and every time I talked to him, had something to say about what you were up to and what you were doing and how much he enjoyed these shows. I mean, he never took any of this stuff that you guys did for granted. He never was like, "Oh, goddamn, I got to go do this show." He was always looking forward to you and him being on the road.
Yeah, I have the coolest picture. It was done by a really good photographer. It's of the marquee at Radio City, and it says Ron White and Vic Henley sold out. And it's hanging on my wall, and it's one of the coolest things I own. Because I respected him as an artist. And, we fit well together because we're both kind of aging Southern storytellers and people and whatever. But it was always a really comfortable fit with Vic, and I respected him in so many ways. And we just lost one. I think much due in part to the coronavirus, because everybody I talked to, everybody I called, every single person I called, Vic had talked to him within the last 2 or 3 days before he passed. And even people that I was surprised that I don't really knew him, and I wasn't at all surprised when he called me. But he didn't say anything wrong. But his mother said he'd been sick for a couple of weeks, but he didn't want to go to the hospital in New York City to try to get better. And so until it got too late, and we lost him because he wants to go to you don't know just how critical something is, but that sounds like a bad deal,
Yeah, it's the worst possible time to go. I'm being told, Ron, that we're having a little trouble with your phone, so we're going to put you on hold for a second and come back to you. Ron White, just a 30-year friend of Vic Henley, and we all adored Vic Henley, but Ron had a much more personal relationship with him, and the thing is, Gail, and we've talked about this before, we all felt close with Vic because of the way he treated all of us.
Yeah, he had a way about him, and honestly, just the best conversations with that guy. But I thought of Ron and Kathleen first and foremost.
Did you see Kathleen Madigan, what she put up on her Instagram?
I did, yeah.
She called it an Irish goodbye, and it was the two of them dancing in a bar to this Irish music, and it was just killed me. It just absolutely killed me.
I think we figured out the problem.
Okay, we'll get Ron back on, but I have to say, Ron, like I said, we all loved Vic, but we felt for you, we felt for Kathleen, we felt for the all the folks that worked and knew Vic for so many years.
Yeah, I was, Kathleen's a dear friend of mine too, and I was staying with her out at her lake house in Nashville, and I kind of hung down there for like 5 days, and then decided to come back to Austin, and I wish I would have stayed because I would have been, I'd have been there with her, and that would have been better, and this, big stat hit her so hard. And, I don't know that she's ever lost a really, really dear friend, but, I lost Steve Cook, who was my best friend since I was 6 years old and my road manager for the last 8 years of his life. And, so that floored me to where I couldn't get off the floor and wanted to quit stand-up and complete depression, and I had no idea all the things he did for me until there was nobody to do them, and so I've felt that pain of loss that's so extreme you don't know what to do with it. My father died at 51, and I don't even think that hit me near as hard as Steve when he died, and then Joey Walden died, and who was just this brilliant, wonderful, close friend, and so, and I sort of cried like a baby when I found out Vic passed, especially when I was talking to Foxworthy about it. They were so close.
Yeah.
At one time, like brothers, and then they kind of got sideways a little bit, but they got back together at the end, and but Kathleen, I don't think, has gone through this before, and it really just, she's really just sobbing for days.
Yeah.
And so I wish I'd have stayed, and now I'm kind of stuck. So,
well, you get these weird receipts for living a life and for all the enjoyment that we have, and it's just so amazingly, difficult when something like this happens, particularly when you lose somebody so fast. You have no chance. You have no chance to take it in.
No. It was, hey, this is bad. Hey, this is over.
Yeah.
That's the way the news came to me. And so I didn't have time to worry about him for a long time, and then he did go through a dragged out, horrible death like Steve and Joey both did. And so I would pick the way Vic went out, and Vic would pick it too. We were all sad that he had to be there, but he was already incapacitated completely by the time they got in the house. So I don't think would have known much different anyway, but I support my friends when they're going through hard times, and so Vic was, he was taken really, really quick, and it's hard to get your arms around.
He was one of the last guests that we had in studio with us, and he was so happy that he had this product coming out. He was really excited. He was going to be talking with Foxworthy and Whitney, and he had things lined up, and it just seemed like he was in a really, good place when all this happened.
Yeah, I had just seen, we had worked somewhere just outside of the city about a month or so ago, and just had a blast. A great venue, and he was, we were just having regular old Vic Henley fun. Now, the wildest thing was, he knew the word, every single word to every song John Prine wrote. And there was no bigger John Prine fan than Vic Henley. And Prine could make him cry. And so for him to die the next day, that was made me stop and think, there's, I'll miss him forever. Tim Wilson was a friend too. I carried him to his grave with Billy Gardell and 4 other guys, and it's just you feel a kinship, as these people that have chosen the exact same path as you, not kind of the same path, the exact same path, and a path that doesn't make sense to very many people, and so it's such a small subculture. And it's a community that I adore, and I'm always a part of it. When I'm out in L.A., I go to the clubs every single night and do sets and hang out with, with Rogan and Marin and Burr and all the L.A. guys. And so when I'm in New York, I do sets, but I also hang with the comics. Because it's just interesting and fun, and it's better than sitting around the house. So I always go out and, do sets and talk to young comics and old comics and, whoever's around. And I fear that I've kind of become the old man of comedy. So people are one wisdom that, I probably don't have.
Yeah. But the other interesting thing is, like, you're still thinking about it all the time, the same way a young comic does, You're just thinking about the next chunk or the next story, whatever you have.
Yeah, because it's that's the hardest thing to me about this shutdown is that I don't know, I don't know if I'm gonna find a 10-seater and start doing shows, but I did shows every night. And if I went 2 weeks without doing a set, I could feel it in my big show, just because that information's just not floating at near as close to the top as it should be for me to pull it out. And so what if I'm off for 4 months and without doing a set? Other than I can watch sets, and I think, one time I went to I had this brief bout with sobriety I was able to overcome with the help of my friends and family. And but in the middle of that, I had a date I had to do in Canada. It was horrible. It was just horrible. I lost fans in Calgary. I don't think I ever recovered in that market because I show was so bad. And that was just a couple of weeks. And of course, I'd been sober for 2 weeks, and I wasn't taking that, laying down. And it was a bad situation, but I did not pull it off. I did not pull it off, and I'd never even been in that position before because I'd never taken time off. And I'd always known that, I'm better on Friday than I'm on Tuesday when I was working in comedy clubs because I've just done those sets. And you got to do it. You got to pick up the horn and blow it if you're going to blow a horn.
We got to end this show, but thanks so much for giving us a call, Ron, and sharing your thoughts on Vic Henley. And he was absolutely adored here in New York. And he stayed Alabama all the years he lived in New York. He stayed 100% Alabama. He was a very, very funny and unique guy. And totally sorry for your loss.
We all love you too, Ron, and we appreciate what you do for our community, and what a stellar job you do with interviews and talking us through it and all these things. And so my hat's off to you, my friend.
All right, we'll talk under better circumstances. Take care. Ron White giving us a call from the road, talking about Vic Henley, and as bad as we feel, Gail, you know what that crowd is going through. You know, the whole blue collar gang and Kathleen Madigan. That was very, very sweet of him to call.